Jakarta Capital City Government will stay committed to remain trustful and wholeheartedly dedicate our efforts to fulfill the basic needs and civil rights to every citizen through providing quality public services.
Tiada henti, multi-channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajik siap melayani. Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ini.
We work with full dedication in order to realize our commitment as the licensing solution for Jakarta citizens.
Come and grow with Jakarta, smart city, smart opportunities.
Bertumbuh bersama Jakarta, berkomitmen terus memberikan hanya yang terbaik, serta menghadirkan kesejahteraan bagi masyarakat Jakarta. Untuk menghadapi tantangan ekonomi global yang tak lagi terbatas, kami terus berinovasi agar kami selalu dapat beradaptasi pada perubahan di sekitar kami. Berbagai layanan kebutuhan pun telah kami hadirkan untuk melayani seluruh lapisan masyarakat, dan kami tidak pernah berhenti untuk selalu mengabdi. Diawali dengan berdirinya perusahaan tanah dan bangunan pada tahun 1969, dengan terbitnya Peraturan Daerah Provinsi DKI Jakarta atas dasar kebutuhan akan properti yang memadai, fungsional, serta memiliki daya dukung pembangunan jangka panjang. Hingga perusahaan tanah dan bangunan terus berinovasi dan bertransformasi menjadi Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya. Kini kami semakin yakin.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. As our events will begin shortly, we'd like to ask everyone to please enter the ballroom and please be seated.
Serta terus berkomitmen menjaga, mengkonservasi, dan membangun hanya yang terbaik bagi Jakarta.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. As our event will begin shortly, we'd like to ask everyone to please enter the ballroom and please be seated. We would also like to take this opportunity to remind you to please follow the following housekeeping measures. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly follow appropriate health and safety protocols. Please wear a mask. Wash your hands regularly or apply hand sanitizers frequently and keep a safe distance. All crew and talent involved in this program have followed strict health protocols and have obtained negative COVID-19 test results. Please also make sure that you have registered yourself at the registration table. Before the event starts, I would like to invite everyone to please be seated. You may find your ushers are ready to guide you to your seating area. Your cooperation is appreciated. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami sudah menyediakan alat penerjemah di pintu masuk ballroom bagi Anda yang membutuhkannya. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that need interpreting device, please get it at the ballroom's entrance. Thank you.
Asia Tenggara, yaitu Sentra Primer Tanah Abang. Dengan terus melakukan inovasi yang berkelanjutan, kami menembus batas ruang dan waktu. Semua didukung dengan sumber daya manusia yang kompeten serta teknologi yang mumpuni. Dengan mengedepankan profesional, setia dan jujur, kami bertekad memenangkan persaingan untuk membangun Jakarta. Karena kami meyakini bahwa kekuatan kami berasal dari kolaborasi yang saling mendukung, suportif dan profesional. Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya melayani Jakarta, kebanggaan Indonesia.
Di saat kami mulai membangun, inovasi mulai menapak maju. Tuntutan untuk pergerakan kemajuan transportasi perkotaan semakin dibutuhkan. Sebagai anak perusahaan PT Jakarta Propertindo Berseroda, LRT Jakarta diberikan kepercayaan untuk terus bekerja keras demi mewujudkan solusi mobilitas publik di Jakarta. Berbagai keunggulan dan kecanggihan fasilitas depo yang dimiliki oleh LRT Jakarta, kami percaya akan mampu bersaing untuk menghadirkan fasilitas transportasi yang terjamin, keamanan dan kenyamanannya. Fase pertama dengan total jarak 5,8 km, LRT Jakarta hadir mulai dari Stasiun Velodrome, Stasiun Equestrian, Stasiun Pulau Mas, Stasiun Boulevard Selatan, Stasiun Boulevard Utara, Stasiun Pegangsaan 2. Sebagai komitmen pelaksanaan dukungan pelayanan prima, LRT Jakarta terus memberikan kemudahan, kenyamanan, dan jaminan keamanan. PT LRT Jakarta juga terus berupaya untuk selalu melakukan pengembangan sumber daya manusia demi terwujudnya insan transportasi yang profesional dan terlatih di seluruh bidang. Keunggulan ini bisa terlihat dimulai dari pengelolaan perawatan sarana dan prasarana yang secara mandiri dikelola oleh LRT Jakarta. Wajah pelayanan yang memiliki keramahan adalah bentuk penyelenggaraan transportasi publik yang prima. LRT Jakarta juga hadir sebagai transportasi yang ramah bagi disabilitas. Kami tidak akan berhenti memberikan pelayanan yang terbaik, sesuai dengan nilai-nilai perusahaan, lincah, ramah, terpercaya, dan jujur. Sebagai solusi mobilitas publik bagi masyarakat Jakarta, kami akan terus melanjutkan perjalanan ini. Kami persembahkan LRT Jakarta.
Have you ever wondered what's in a bus ride? It's more than the frenzy of thousands of buses circling around Jakarta, or hundreds of roads that span the entire city. It's not just about integrated fleets, which will connect you to different destinations, or hundreds of bus stops scattered on every street. It's also not just about officers, drivers, even mechanics, who always strive to provide the best services. This is beyond technology and innovation that are constantly designed, implemented, and developed so that every trip feels easier without having to disturb the environment. For behind every journey, a community is built. Distances are connected and opportunities are created. This is about inclusivity, where the entire Transjakarta fleet is entitled to be enjoyed by everyone. And no matter where it goes, no one will be left behind. This is what behind every bus trip. Every bus stations, building ecosystem that breathes life into Jakarta's economy. Every route, connecting different lives and experience together. Every technology and innovation opens easy access for all people. Every services ensure the passengers feel safe and comfortable, whether they are traveling far or near. And every electric bus this is deployed provides space for Jakarta to breathe fresh air again. We at Transjakarta are proud to be part of DKI Jakarta Provincial Government in an effort to build integrated transportation services that make life easier and happier in the city of Jakarta. We believe in every journey we can bisa, happy to work, innovative, passion for excellence and high trust bisa to advance the city of Jakarta. Because we adhere to one principle and one purpose, namely connecting the life of Jakarta. Transjakarta bisa.
Jakarta, a city with endless investment opportunities. Indonesia's center of government and business activities. A city ready to serve as an economic and geographic hub for world markets. As our dreams soar as high as skyscrapers, we take pride in being part of the metropolitan's infrastructure expansion. Embracing modern living, embracing strength, reassurance, and security to drive growth and sustainability. Explore pure, untouched landscapes, only one step away from our water's edge. Rekindle the community spirit with various child and adult-friendly activities. Connecting people and places, transforming capacity development through the collaboration of public and private sectors. With the population structure's productive age majority coming from substantial education backgrounds, trained to serve as qualified human resources and serving on the front line of administration, assisted by one-stop integrated service facilities, providing easier permit and licensing applications. Jakarta, a city with advantages like no other. Where the past isn't left behind, the present embracing its roots, knocking on future's door, dressed in heritage and legacy. With more than 10.4 million inhabitants, Jakarta is the most promising place for you to invest. It is the largest city in ASEAN, with a rapidly growing middle class with high purchasing power. Jakarta is now listed as a prospective investment destination in the world, one of the most preferred places for business investments. Join the world's large emerging market. Make investment choices as winning strategy.
Come and grow with Jakarta, smart city, smart opportunities.
Kota ini adalah rumah. Jutaan cerita ada di sini. Keberagaman bukan halangan, melainkan simbol persatuan. Semua warga setara. Ruang ketiga hadir di setiap sudutnya. Tempat interaksi warga tanpa memandang siapa mereka. Setiap langkah jadi pengalaman. Artistik, unik, megah. Semua itu dibangun dengan semangat kolaborasi. Bersama warga membangun wajah baru Jakarta yang lebih baik. Pelayanan terus ditingkatkan, teknologi turut berperan memajukan kota ini. Kondisi pandemi makin menguatkan solidaritas. Berbagai kolaborasi hadir untuk meringankan beban sesama. Semua unsur dilibatkan dari warga untuk warga. Dengan kolaborasi, bersama membangun Jakarta dan membahagiakan warganya. Selamat datang di Kota Kolaborasi, Kota Jakarta.
Improving quality of public services is a monumental aspect of administrative and bureaucratic reforms, for it will contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Jakarta Investment and One-Stop Integrated Service Department, or better known as PTSP Jakarta, is a newly established government organization that started in 2015. PTSP Jakarta provides integrated solutions for managing investment, licensing, and non-licensing in the capital city of Jakarta. Our service aims to focus on three main priorities to achieve zero delay, zero complaint, and 100% service excellence. Thus, we provide the citizens with an innovative multi-channel public service approach. To make PTSP's presence more accessible, our services are spread in 316 points. A 12-story building dedicated as a Jakarta Public Service Mall was built in 2017 to expand the function of one-stop integrated service. The mall integrates 19 public service units from private sector and government agencies of both Jakarta and central government into one place, becoming a comprehensive one-stop place providing 330 services. Prioritizing the use of information system and communication to accelerate our services. Managing customer inquiries with quick response, and providing reliable and suitable for working and public facilities. Committed in giving exceptional service, we hold on to values to provide solution through empathy, decisive, innovative, manners.
Setia solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Setia solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Pelayanan publik.
Jakarta Capital City Government will stay committed to remain trustful and wholeheartedly dedicate our efforts to fulfill the basic needs and civil rights to every citizens through providing quality public services.
Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ibu kota. Kerja tanpa lelah memberikan yang terbaik dengan inovasi tiada henti. Multi-channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani. Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ini.
We work with full dedication in order to realize our commitment as the licensing solution for Jakarta citizens.
Dengan inovasi tiada henti. Multi-channel public service
Jakarta, Smart City, Smart Opportunities.
bersama Jakarta berkomitmen terus memberikan hanya yang terbaik serta menghadirkan kesejahteraan bagi masyarakat Jakarta. Untuk menghadapi tantangan ekonomi global yang tak lagi terbatas, kami terus berinovasi agar kami selalu dapat beradaptasi pada perubahan di sekitar kami. Berbagai layanan kebutuhan pun telah kami hadirkan untuk melayani seluruh lapisan masyarakat, dan kami tidak pernah berhenti untuk selalu mengabdi. Diawali dengan berdirinya perusahaan tanah dan bangunan pada tahun 1969. Dengan terbitnya peraturan daerah Provinsi DKI Jakarta atas dasar kebutuhan akan properti yang memadai, fungsional, serta memiliki daya dukung pembangunan jangka panjang. Hingga perusahaan tanah dan bangunan terus berinovasi dan bertransformasi menjadi Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya.
To the press members, we'd like to invite you to please be located in the designated location. Thank you very much.
Kini kami semakin yakin untuk menjadi perusahaan yang selalu berinovasi dalam mempertahankan eksistensi di bidang pembangunan yang ada di Jakarta, serta terus berkomitmen menjaga, mengkonservasi, dan membangun hanya yang terbaik bagi Jakarta. Berbagai layanan dan kebutuhan properti pun telah kami hadirkan. Dari Anda memulai pagi hingga Anda menutup hari. Mulai dari hunian, perkantoran, pusat perbelanjaan, fasilitas umum, hingga perhotelan. Dengan visi menjadi perusahaan pengembang yang terkemuka dan berkelanjutan di Indonesia, serta misi mengembangkan bisnis properti yang mendukung strategi dan program kerja Pemprov DKI Jakarta. Untuk menunjang pengembangan kawasan perkotaan yang bersifat modern, Perumda Pembangunan Sarana Jaya melakukan master plan dan rancangan master developer agar kedepannya proses rancangan induk kawasan perkotaan berjalan dengan baik yang bersifat strategis. Salah satunya melakukan pengembangan kawasan perdagangan terbesar se-Asia Tenggara, yaitu Sentra Primer Tanah Abang. terus melakukan inovasi yang berkelanjutan, kami menembus batas.
Guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Here at the heart of Jakarta, at the beautiful Fairmont Hotel, we welcome you to the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. First and foremost, please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Amelia Yahya, and I'll be your host for today. I'm so incredibly honored, so very happy to be here, to be a part of this incredible event, especially with a crowd of your caliber. And ladies and gentlemen, for a little bit of your information, this event is live streamed via Zoom as well as broadcasted via YouTube channels. On our channels, that is the Pemprov DKI Jakarta and Layanan Jakarta. So, without further ado, allow me to extend our warmest welcome to our host. Ladies and gentlemen, let us say hello to His Excellency, Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, our beloved Governor of Jakarta. Let's give him a big round of applause. Good morning, Your Excellency. And ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to extend our warmest welcome to our guests of honor, His Excellency Mr. Ahmad Abu Talib, the Mayor of Rotterdam, whom will be joining us shortly, as well as the Honorable Head of Bank Indonesia DKI Jakarta Representative Office, Mr. Oni Wijanarko. His Excellency Mr. Park Tae-sung, the Ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. Kwok Fok-sung, the Ambassador of Singapore to Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. If Hyang, the Ambassador of Cambodia to Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. Padraig Francis, the Ambassador of Ireland to Indonesia. His Excellency Mr. Francisco de Assis Aguilera Aranda, the Ambassador of Spain to Indonesia. His Excellency Air Vice Marshal Muhammad Mustafizur Rahman, GUP NDC-PSC, the Ambassador of the People's Republic of Bangladesh to Indonesia. And Her Excellency Ms. Fauzia Andres Salman Al-Sulaiti, the Ambassador of the State of Qatar to Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, would also like to say hello to all the assistants of Provincial Secretary and all the officials of the Jakarta Capital City Government. So, without further ado, to start our day, I'd like to kindly ask you to please rise and be on your feet. And together, let us sing Indonesia's national anthem, Indonesia Raya. You may now be seated. So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about Indonesia, we of course can't separate the great facts that Indonesia is the world's fourth most populous country in the world. We are the third largest democracy in the world. We're also the third largest island nation. And of course, we're the largest economy in Southeast Asia. So of course, you can imagine how vibrant, how colorful, and how exciting our capital city is, beautiful Jakarta. And now please allow me to show you a glimpse of our cultural gem, and that is our beautiful cultural heritage and cultural beauty through tarian ondel-ondel, or the ondel-ondel dance. And now allow me to tell you a little bit about these ondel-ondels. Ladies and gentlemen, they are known as the mascots of our capital city, and they're very mischievous. Ladies and gentlemen, they're usually celebrated and invited during celebratory events such as weddings and of course during events such as today. And in the past, they are made to represent the ancestors to ward off bad spirits, evil spirits, as well as harm. But in today's age, we have had them evolved as a valued entertainment as well as cultural icon. So, without further ado, please allow me to present to you and invite the ondel-ondels. How lively and exciting was that performance? So, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, as for now, allow me to deliver a little bit of information regarding today's background. So the Jakarta Investment Forum, it is an annual investment forum that is initiated by the Department for Investments and Integrated One-Stop Services Jakarta in collaboration with Bank Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, this year the Jakarta Investment Forum aims to be a part of the U20 or the Urban 20 Mayors Summit 2022 in the investment sector that aims to promote Jakarta as an investment-friendly city and a city of collaboration. Ladies and gentlemen, so this event is intended to inform the public regarding Jakarta Capital City Government's strong commitment in climate change mitigation, as well as city transformation in becoming a sustainable and a livable city. We invite all city leaders along with stakeholders to participate in a very important and exclusive discussion, and that is investing in resilience. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm very delighted to show you a glimpse of what we're going to do today, our agenda. So from 9 a.m. until noon, until 12, we'll have an opening ceremony that will be followed by an insightful thematic discussions with our great speakers. And together, we're going to pick their brain. And by 12 lunchtime, we're going to have a short break and mingle with the great company that is around us. And by 1:30 until 2:45 p.m., we'll have a parallel thematic discussions, and followed from 2:45 until 4 p.m. we'll have a thematic discussions in collaboration with the British Embassy here in Jakarta, and from 1:30 until 3 p.m. we'll have a one-on-one meeting and networking session, and last but not least, by 3:55 p.m. we're going to have a closing ceremony and drop the anchor message of this forum. And ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of our dearest hosts and our organizers, please allow us to extend our profound gratitude and sincere thanks to everyone for your participation and for your attendance here today. So to start, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big round of applause for Jakarta and for everyone here. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, on a fun note, as you come and enter the ballroom just now by the foyer, you may have come across what is called a Rebox. So a Rebox, it is a pop-up recycling booth that is located at the foyer area just outside the ballroom. A Rebox, it is a vending machine that basically eats our plastic trash and then converts or transforms them into points by Rico system. So, ladies and gentlemen, to start our beautiful day, let us listen to the committee report that will be delivered by the head of the Departments for Investments and Integrated One-Stop Services of the Jakarta Capital City Government. Please allow me to invite to the stage Mr. Beni Agus Chandra. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Peace be upon us. Good morning. The Honorable Governor of Jakarta Capital City Government, Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, Pak. All distinguished panelists, speaker, investor, and participant, Excellency, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Committee of Jakarta Investment Forum 2022, it is my privilege to convey my warm welcome and sincerely appreciation to our distinguished guests, speaker, panelists, collaborators, and all participants in attending Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. Please allow me to take this moment to briefly explain this event. Jakarta Investment Forum 2022 is our second annual investment forum that aims to promote and facilitate potential investors in exploring various sustainable projects in Jakarta to promote Jakarta as a global prominent city. This event is initiated by Jakarta Investment Centre as part of Department for Investment and Integrated One-Stop Service, Jakarta Capital City Government, in collaboration with Bank Indonesia and Jakarta Investment Committee. Thank you, Pak Oni and Pak Tom, for support this event. This year, Jakarta Investment Forum takes investing in resilience as a main theme to answer the urgency of transforming urban development into more sustainable way in line with the global net zero emission target. The main event will be held in one day consisting of plenary discussion, thematic discussion, commitment collaboration signing, meet the leader, one-on-one meeting, and networking session. There are 7 regional-owned enterprises, including PT MRT Jakarta, PT Transportasi Jakarta, PT Jakarta Propertindo, PT Kawasan Berikat Nusantara, PT Jakarta International Estate Pulau Gadung, Jakarta Experience Board, and Perumda Saranajaya that are showcasing their 15 promising projects in Jakarta Investment Forum. Last but not least, we would like to thank you, our strategic partner, Bank Indonesia, and our collaborator, including panelists, speaker, and even partner in conducting this event. Once again, Jakarta Investment Forum 2022 invite you all to come and collaborate with Jakarta. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Pak Beni, for the great insights and the remarks. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, before we reach the peak and the highlights of today's forum, that is the welcoming remarks from His Excellency Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, our beloved Governor of Jakarta, please allow me to direct your eyes and your attention onto the screen and allow me to present to you a short video about Jakarta and the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022.
Is on a fast track to catastrophe. We are all on the same boat, racing against the crisis of our time, climate change. The lives of humankind are deeply affected. The water we drink, the food on our plate, the clean air we breathe. It might be luxury goods for our children by then. So, where do we stand? As the largest megapolitan in the Southern Hemisphere, Jakarta is home for 11 million people and 35 million more in its greater area. And we would like to keep this place we call home for generations to come. Let's talk about 20, 30 years from now. How do we make an impact to help the world?
Jakarta is shifting toward sustainable development, talking our path not only as an economic center, but also as pioneer for green innovation.
Translating the Paris Agreement and COP26 into action, Jakarta has set an ambitious goal to reach net zero emission by 2050, integrating public transport, electrifying public buses, expanding green spaces, and developing low-emission zones as our initial step to achieve our vision. We are heading to the right direction, but we need to go even further.
As an economic powerhouse, Jakarta is home of multinational companies with 8 million of productive workforce. Our investment continue to grow positively in the post-pandemic. Aligned with our regional low-carbon development plan, we present to you Jakarta Investment Forum 2022.
We proudly present to you Jakarta Investment Forum 2022, Investing in Resilience. Bringing you opportunities to participate in building a better Jakarta through several curated projects. From the heart of Jakarta capital city, meet our experts and policymakers to discuss the current investment climate development. Build a network and find your business partners here in Jakarta Investment Forum. Be a part of a more sustainable and livable Jakarta.
Time is running out. Our world is calling for our concrete action, and we need to act now. Let's come and join investing in resilience with Jakarta.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please allow me to invite to the stage His Excellency Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, the Governor of Jakarta.
Excellencies, ambassadors, representatives of friendly countries who are participating in this forum, Senior Urban Development Specialist of the World Bank, Mr. Luis Miguel Trevino will be speaking in the first session. Excellency, the head of the World Bank, the head of the Bank of Indonesia, Jakarta Representative Office, Bapak Oni Wijanarko, representatives from the coordinating ministers of economic affairs, and also from the ministers from the central government who are participating in this forum this morning. All participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. It is indeed a pleasure for me to welcome all of you, potential investors, participants, friends of Jakarta, friends of Indonesia, to the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. This event is held annually. And this year, we are holding this event a day after the U20 session completed in Jakarta to make it as one package about Jakarta, its future, and its engagement to the world. So we are having this event today, and yesterday we completed our first session of the U20 because the second session is now taking place in West Java, and we're grateful with the result yesterday. Last year, the Jakarta Investment Forum, the theme was strengthening the post-pandemic economic through collaborations. We elaborate on three main focuses at the Jakarta Investment Forum 2021. Those are urban health, urban mobility, and urban tourisms. But today, this year, we're deciding to have a theme of investing in resilience. And we'd like to bring three thematic discussions by focusing on Jakarta's sustainable food system, waste management through circular economy, and three is public-private partnership for green investment. We decided to use this subject, these topics, and having a conversation on this so that we will be in line with our G20 summit That is recover together, recover stronger. And also those are the same topics that we have been discussing at the U20. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, allow me here to share some of Jakarta challenge. It was mentioned earlier during the brief recorded messages that we are embarking on a journey to make Jakarta a more livable city. And greenhouse gas emissions is one of our key challenges. It was mentioned earlier that Jakarta is the largest megapolitan in the Southern Hemisphere, and we are also an area in which heavily populated, 11 million populations, 35 millions with the greater Jakarta. But what's also interesting, we are also the home of motorized vehicles. We have 13 million registered two-wheelers, and we have 3 million of registered four-wheelers. Although I must say, registered vehicles, some of them have left Jakarta, but they're still registered in Jakarta. So I would say the number is about equivalent, the number of people and the number of motorized vehicles. And that is a challenge. And therefore, Jakarta generates around 40,000 CO2 annually. We need to change. We cannot continue on doing this, and we have set high standards. Number one, we want to have the greenhouse gas emission reductions by 30% in the year 2030. Today, we are in the year 2022, and we're grateful that we have achieved 26% out of 30% of our target. So we are ahead of that target. 8 more years to go, 4 more percent to go. So we are quite optimistic that by 2025, we would have achieved the target. So we are on the right track on achieving that ambitious target of net zero emissions by 2030. So how do we go about it? What have we done on that aspect? Allow me to share some of the concrete actions that Jakarta has been doing. One, we transform our way of looking at how city operates, how city develop, how people's mobility is being designed. And I will use the word mobility instead of transportations because that's a wider coverage. We're shifting that paradigm. And shifting that paradigm is a tremendous challenge because we have been using the old paradigm for decades. It's like you used to be riding with your right hand, and then now you're learning to ride with your left hand. And that requires tremendous effort to actually change the mindset, change the way we work, change the way we operate, change the way we look at things. And I often tell our friends, we got to think like a stranger, but act like a native. We have to ask questions that had never been raised. We have to look at things from completely different perspective. So often in many of our meetings, my job was not to give directions, but to give questions. And those questions need to be answered. And whenever we put the more why into the conversation, then we will have more answers, more creativity into the conversation. But if the leadership in the room was giving directions, we guarantee all the bureaucracy will be able to deliver completely, 100%, sometimes more, of the directions. But when it comes to questions, then we all have to think in a different way. So the more why, the more how being put into the table, the more change we are seeing. And that's how we approach Jakarta in the past 5 years. So whenever you're seeing all these changes, it is not a single man idea. It is a collective effort, and it is through a very rich discussion, conversations that often were overlooked whenever we come to a conclusion that things have changed. We often overlook the process of that. So what has been done include transforming our public bus network, which is explained earlier, designing transit-oriented development areas, and then electrifications of public buses, and then we're talking about revitalizations of cycling infrastructures, which was absent earlier, and then building waste and water treatment facilities, applying energy efficient appliance, and so on. But all of this were done in the past few years, many I can say, but let's look at initial indicators. We have seen quite a positive sign from the public's response. Let me give you one example. That our daily ridership of public transport used to be around 350,000 per day. It was in 2016. By 2020, it reached 1 million per day. That's tripled. And I often mention, if we doubled our fleet, if we triple our fleet, it's simply saying we have the fiscal power and we have the commitment to increase our capacity. But if you triple the ridership, it means the behavior of the public is changing. And that's what we want, and that's what we would like to push even further. 1 million is not the end. Our target is 4 million daily riderships. But we are on that track. This needs to continue. And then expansion as well. The coverage used to be around 42%, now 82% of Jakarta is covered by public transport. And then we're talking about expanding pedestrian path. I mean, you have witnessed Jakarta, we have more sidewalks nowadays, and not only surrounding Jalan Sudirman area, which is the downtown and the central business district, but also elsewhere. In terms of kilometers, around 240 kilometers, in miles, about 160 miles. So, and then bike lines, and then bike sharing blocks, and all of that. And those transformations, we're grateful with ITDP. They have been doing assessment of cities, and they have concluded that Jakarta is a city that have the biggest leap in terms of transportation reform. So we were awarded the 2021 Sustainable Transport Award. In 2020, we were runner-up. In 2021, we're the number one. And then in 2022, we're not supposed to run again. So we got to wait. It's not that our public transport is the best in the world. No, they are measuring the delta. How much change you're making in a particular year. And that delta has shown Jakarta's commitment, not only from the city government, but also the response from the public in line with the transformation. So, and then we don't want to do it two steps in achieving the target of reductions of greenhouse gas emissions by moving people to public transport. We would like to moving the residents to public transport, and the public transport is a green public transport. That's why electrification is key. And we would like to push even further. So we hope by 2030, all buses operating in Jakarta will be electric buses by 2030. In 2025 and on, any new procurement of electric buses by the operators will be electric buses. Why 2025? It's because the preparedness in terms of the supply chain. The demand is here, we're ready, but the supply chain, the productions and all of that will take time. So, and then that's on the reduction of producers of greenhouse emissions. The other side is making sure our city is producing healthy air. And therefore, we are talking about improving our infrastructures for the open and green spaces. So we built no less than 370 parks, 29 urban forests, and planted large trees, not small trees, large trees, at the numbers of 140,000. So all of this being done, on the one hand, we try to sort of push down in terms of production of emissions. On the other hand, we are allowing ourselves to have more quality air being produced in our city. So the commitment is there. And that commitment has been translated as well into the development plan of 2023 to 2026. So that will continue because the governor will not be here forever. The chief of the investment board will not be here forever. We will be seeing rotations. However, we should not rely those changes into individuals. We have to institutionalize change. We're living in the modern world, and institution is key, and therefore we are institutionalizing those changes into the development plan that has been ratified, and that plan will continue on that path, on the transit-oriented development paradigm and all the derivatives of that paradigm. And therefore, I would like to call for collaborations. This will not be able to be done only by government. The vision is there. We would like to build Jakarta with a more green-oriented, with more sustainable approach, and we would like to invite investors from private sectors, from governmental counterparts, from financial institutions globally to join us. Jakarta is a place there where transaction is massive. We contributed 17% of our economy, the Indonesian economy, and the business activity that is happening in our city is also very vibrant. We all see that. And with those changes, we're hoping that the future of Jakarta will reflect the kind of future city we would like to live for our children and the children of our children. And with that, I'm inviting partners, private sectors, governmentals, international communities to partners with us to work together in the investment on that area. And therefore, on this important event, we will be seeing some of the plans, some of the potential projects, some of the concrete works that have been started and will continue that would be of interest to many of you. And to our friends, ambassadors, representatives, we truly appreciate your participation today and would like to seek your assistance. Maybe any of the institutions within your country that may have relevance, may have interest to our visions, to our potential project, do invite them to come. And we're more than happy to have further conversations on all of this subject. So the objective from this forum is not simply about showing what we have done, but it is also about, and this is more about, what we are engaging, what we are embarking to the future, and the partnership that we would like to build. So the Jakarta Investment Forum should be a gateway for all of us to have the exchanges. And with us here is not only speakers, participants from the bureaucracy, but we have leaders of our state-owned enterprises who are here with us. I often said in government of Jakarta, we have two hands. On the one hand is the bureaucracy, on the other hand is the state-owned enterprises. Both were doing work for us. One is with following bureaucratic procedures, the other one is using commercial approach in order to achieve development agenda. So the agenda is the same, but the way we operate to achieve that is different. For transportations, we're using commercial approach so that we can partner with other institutions. When it comes to some of the work that market cannot function, then we're using the bureaucracy where market fails to address. So on that, I truly appreciate your participation this morning, and on behalf of the Jakarta Capital City Government, I would like to appreciate your participation. Thanks, and I believe the goals that we are aiming is the goals that is beyond just government aspirations. It is for the benefit of all. It is our contributions to the challenge of the humanity, and we hope that you will join our journey on this. Allow me then to officially open this Jakarta Investment Forum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Jakarta Investment Forum 2022 is now officially open. Thank you.
Your Excellency, we would like to ask you to please remain on stage. And to join His Excellency on stage, please allow me to invite Mrs. Sri Haryati, the Assistant to the Provincial Secretary for Economy and Finance. Mr. Oni Wijanarko, the Executive Director of Bank Indonesia DKI Jakarta Representative Office. Mr. Thomas Lembong, the Jakarta Investment Committee. And Mr. Beni Agus Chandra, the Head of Department for Investments and Integrated One-Stop Services. Thank you very much, Ibu. Thank you, Bapak. We'd like to invite you to please come up on stage along with His Excellency, Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan. And gentlemen, Ibu, later on my count to officially launch the Jakarta Investment Forum, I'd like to invite everyone to please press the logo, the button that we see on the screen of the Jakarta Investment Forum. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is to great success, to great opportunities, and for future endeavors to be successful, fruitful, and everlasting. Everyone, are we ready? All right. 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022 is officially open. And Your Excellencies, I'd like to invite everyone to please stand at the front of the stage and let us capture this beautiful moment with a group photo session together. Kami persilahkan kepada teman-teman media sekalian dan teman-teman fotografer sekalian untuk mengabadikan momen ini. Terima kasih kami ucapkan kepada teman-teman media sekalian dan juga teman-teman fotografer untuk mengabadikan momen ini. This is it, ladies and gentlemen, the official launch of the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. Terima kasih, ladies and gentlemen. Let's give them a big round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to once again thank His Excellency, Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, our beloved Governor of Jakarta, as well as Mrs. Sri Haryati, the Assistant to the Provincial Secretary of Economy and Finance, Mr. Oni Wijanarko, the Executive Director of Bank Indonesia DKI Jakarta Representative Office, Mr. Thomas Lembong, the Jakarta Investment Committee, and of course, Mr. Beni Agus Chandra, the Head of Departments for Investment and Integrated One-Stop Services. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to also thank everyone, every single one of you. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow us to thank you for your participation, for your attendance, as well as for your support here today. Without your support, this forum would not be possible. And ladies and gentlemen, on that note, we'd like to ask you to please stay until the end of our event because we have so many insights to deliver. And one of them, let us officially start and get down to business on our first plenary session. And that is our plenary discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, this next session will be conducted and moderated by our great moderator, Ms. Desi Anwar. The plenary discussion will highlight several key points and drive each guest speakers to examine some of the core and important issues, an array of issues surrounding Indonesia in becoming a potential hub for green investment initiatives in Southeast Asia, as well as to empower Indonesia's green initiatives towards a more sustainable economic growth, enhancing Jakarta's global partnership towards a more livable and sustainable and resilient city, an international city benchmarking, and that is Rotterdam's strategy in building a future of prosperous city, and Jakarta's strategic and much-needed plan to attract more global investments to accelerate Jakarta's green transition towards. And ladies and gentlemen, on this session, we're going to be inviting an array of speakers, and that are the experts that are much more knowledgeable regarding those very subjects. And they are His Excellency Mr. Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, His Excellency Mr. Dodi Budi Waluyo, His Excellency Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, His Excellency Mr. Ahmad Abu Talib, and His Excellency Mr. Luis Miguel Triveno Chanjan. So, without further ado, it is with the greatest honor and pleasure that I shall welcome our moderator. Let us give a big round of applause for Ms. Desi Anwar.
Hello. Hi. Technical glitch. Thank you very much, Amelia, for that lovely introduction. And hello, and a very, very good morning to all of you, excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Desi Anwar, and it's my greatest pleasure to be your moderator for this morning's session. And I just would like to say, this is a really great honor for me to be moderating this Jakarta Investment Forum 2022 in person, because we've had 2 years of doing things online, doing things by Zoom, and it's so lovely to see once again Jakarta finally experiencing some of the good things or the bad things, whichever way we're looking at it, that we didn't have the last couple of years, which is traffic. And so it's good to see that we can all gather here, and let's hope that the pandemic is well behind us. And I would also like to welcome our viewers who are doing it online. We can also see today's discussion. You can follow it online through Zoom, a virtual meeting, and it will be broadcast at the Pemprov DKI Jakarta YouTube channel, and also Layanan Jakarta YouTube channel. And this morning's theme is investing in resilience. Of course, the questions that will come up, hopefully in this discussion, is what does it mean? What kind of investments do we need which will ensure our resilience? And we've seen in the videos earlier and also in the speeches by the governor that the global warming and the climate change having extremely negative impact on the planet and on us as societies, particularly in big cities. We've seen how fires rage throughout countries. We've seen floods. We've seen pollutions and drought. Therefore, we do need to make sure that our societies, our communities, and our people are resilient against these extreme weather challenges that will be with us even more. And we've seen the pandemic. The pandemic has actually caused major disasters. It's taken lives. It's creates big problems for our health system. We need to create resilient people who are healthy and people who are thriving. And we've also seen how the war in the Ukraine is producing energy crisis. And we need to make sure that we are no longer dependent on fossil fuels to power our energy. Therefore, we need investment in green energy, in renewable energy. And of course, the government mentioned about our targets of reducing emission, but we also have SDG targets, Sustainable Development Goal targets, where we have to ensure that all of us on this planet can live in an environment that is pollution-free. We have access to clean water, we have access to health and education, and for this, I think cities can be leaders to actually initiate all of these changes, of course, through green investment. And Amelia mentioned we have distinguished speakers joining us this morning. Let me just once again introduce who our panelists this morning are. We will have joining us through video Mr. Luhut Binsar Panjaitan. He is the Coordinating Minister for Maritime Affairs and Investment. And we will also have joining us online Deputy Governor of Bank Indonesia, Pak Dodi Budi Waluyo. And of course with us, Governor of Jakarta, Pak Anies Baswedan. And joining us all the way from the Netherlands, the Mayor of Rotterdam, Mr. Ahmed Abu Talib, a very big welcome to you. And last but not least, from the World Bank, Senior Urban Development Specialist of the World Bank. And before we start discussion, I would like to now show the remarks from our Coordinating Minister for Investment and Maritime Affairs, Luhut Panjaitan. And let's hope we can have him on the video.
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to convey congratulations and success for the Governor of DKI Jakarta and team in organizing the Jakarta Investment Forum 2022. I believe that investment is crucial for Indonesia to achieve its goal to be the fourth largest economy and Indonesia Maju 2045. And I also ensure that growth of every city, including Jakarta. Indonesia is the largest archipelagic country in the world. Its stretch for 3,977 miles and consisted of more than 17,500 islands from Sabang to Merauke and from Miangas to Pulau Rute. We are blessed with abundant natural resources and a huge renewable energy potential. With a large and young workforce, and we are expected to enjoy our demographic dividend by 2030. It is our opportunity to build sustainable and productive generation. As we have entered September, the COVID-19 is officially in Indonesia for more than 2 years. Thanks to all of our hard work, we have succeeded in suppressing the pandemic. The challenge do not stop there. The world is currently facing instability and uncertainty. The war between Russia and Ukraine have led to energy and food crisis in many parts of the world. Monetary fighting by the Fed also contribute to the world's slowing economy. Despite all of that, Indonesia's economy remains stable and is among the best in the world today. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Indonesia has a target of net zero emission by 2060. The government of Indonesia continuously working together to create greener industries and infrastructures. Green port, EV-based mass public transportation development has been a work in progress. However, electrification of passenger car is one of the crucial contributions to reduce pollution. With 8% yearly growth in the number of passenger cars, Indonesia is very keen to develop the electric vehicle ecosystem. As Indonesia has the highest nickel reserve for 21 million metric ton, copper for 20 million ton, bauxite for 1.2 billion ton, and cobalt for 0.6 million metric ton, it's our advantage to establish the downstream industry and not depend on export of raw materials anymore. So far, downstream processing has been carried out on nickel ore, which is processed into stainless steel materials, and later on we're going to see lithium battery producers in this country. And we are now working towards the development of the global EV market. Nickel ore will also be processed to become cathode or EV battery, like I mentioned earlier. Effort to downstream production will also be carried out on various other Indonesian main export products. Next, ladies and gentlemen, North Kalimantan will act as a new game changer as downstream process for petrochemical and EV supply chain take place. Several investors already invest in North Kalimantan due to the available commodities, the large land area and the river that has the potential to become a hydropower plant. We are aware that climate change is becoming more imminent, and with the existing carbon production commitments, the global temperatures will still increase, and based on the COP26 Glasgow recommendation, we have to keep the temperature rise does not exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. Indonesia's commitment to climate change mitigation is reinforced by formulation of several policies. Indonesia has set the target for emission reduction and net zero emission by 2060. To fulfill the target, we will gradually shift from coal fire to renewable energy power plants. ASEAN Development Bank support the retiring 50% of the coal fleet energy transition mechanism pilots in Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. This initiative could out 200 million tons of CO2 annually, the equivalent of taking 61 million cars off the road, and hopefully become one of the biggest carbon reduction programs in the world. Based on RUPTL, Indonesia commit to reach 51 renewable energy in 2030 by increasing the contribution of solar, hydro, and geothermal power plants. Total of 5.5 gigawatt early retirement will be possible before 2030, with 8.58 billion investment in US dollar. We have been working with donors and investors to help support the initiative to reduce overall generation emissions. Along with the whole initiative, the government is formulating a carbon cap, a trade and tax policy to curb the increase in greenhouse gas emissions and change the economic behaviors. A carbon tax will be imposed on the coal-fired power plants with cap and tax after doing cap and trade mechanism. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, from a regulatory perspective, the government has prepared various reforms to support investment that can drive Indonesian economic transformation. The government also ensures that it will continue to prepare attractive incentive schemes to encourage investment, both for domestic investors and foreign investors. Current incentives offered include the tax holiday, ease of licensing, incentive for industrial estates, as well as prioritizing local content for the government procurement with a platform of national strategic project. Going forward, Indonesia will continue implementing beneficial transformation to support climate change initiative. and structural reform policy to increase the overall productivity of the economy, including human resources development, R&D development, infrastructure development, and improving the investment climate. In the end, I would like to reiterate that we cannot escape from global challenges that are becoming more complex and dynamic every day. Therefore, we need to adapt and recognize opportunity from any challenges. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
That's our Coordinating Minister for Investment and Maritime Affairs, Pak Luhut, is unfortunately currently unable to be with us. He is in Bali on G20 matters, but I think we can see and hear from his speech there are plenty of investment opportunities in Indonesia. And indeed, Indonesia can actually reduce its emission by 41% in 2030 with international support. Now, I would like to invite our first speaker for this morning's session. We have Luis Miguel Triveño, Senior Urban Development Specialist of the World Bank. If you would like to come and join me on the stage. And Luis has led and executed social, urban and rural development reform projects in over 25 countries in Europe, Asia, Africa and Latin America. Luis, I'll give you 10 minutes to give your presentation before the next speaker.
Good morning, everybody. Governor, thank you for the invitation. Excellencies, ambassadors, authorities from the central and local government, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the country director of the World Bank, Satu Kakonen, who cannot be here, I'm delighted to be here to share with you a little bit of the vision and the plans and the actions that the World Bank is taking on this important area of responding to climate change, and as our moderators just said, responding to climate change and doing everything else that we were already supposed to be doing. It was very interesting to see what the governor was telling us about changing the paradigm, changing the way we do things. And this is essentially at the core of what we are also doing at the World Bank. We have adopted this issue and embedded it in every single thing we are doing. We have now enforced our World Bank Climate Action Plan, and that essentially in practice is making us dedicate by 2025 32% of the World Bank balance sheet to climate finance. So 32% of what we do is going to be focused on climate finance, and half of that, so $50 billion, will be focused on adaptation. And so this important corporate commitment is cascading down to the regions and the sectors, to the countries, and is reflected, and it's going to be reflected in the work we do with the national government and the local governments all over the world, and in Indonesia too. One important piece for the discussion today is that as it happens in Indonesia or elsewhere in the world, the greenhouse gas emissions generated by cities are the largest component of the situation, no? And so the cities have been identified as one of the 5 transition systems that need to be tackled. So what we are doing around the world is we are supporting every single country to develop country climate and development reports. And the idea is to elevate this topic at the highest level. So it's at the strategic level of the conversation. What are the challenges? What needs to be done? But as yesterday we had an event where the government also participated, where he mentioned that probably there is only one thing that is worse than a vision without a plan, and that is a plan without financing. So what we are trying to do is, with these plans, we are trying to translate this through policies, regulation, and investments for countries and cities to decarbonize and build resilience. In terms of changing the paradigm, this means that for years, for decades, we were only trying to build back better. The changing paradigm is that we need to now build better before. So it is not, and because climate change is not erasing all the other development goals, it means also that in terms of a paradigm, it's not an either-or discussion anymore. It is a yes and discussion. So it is climate change and everything else, which will bring me to one point at the end I would like to make is about how we finance this infrastructure. No? So this is a good practice that is taking place all over the world. London has done that with this first integrated environment strategy for the city in 2018. Istanbul has an interesting experience because they started with an original plan, a new mayor came in, and the ambition went even further, and they also tried to move from policy to implementation and action. Similar type of work we are doing with some of cities in different regions around the world, and the way it works is, while the most part that is seen is the financing aspect of this, there is a lot of work before on upstream analytics and knowledge, planning and strategy, and of course project preparation, and that the work of country teams here in all countries over the world is supported by our global GPs, and of course of the donors that partner with us, and global programs that innovate and create new solutions to address these issues. This is the case of the Philippines, for example, where we have been finishing a work along the similar lines, work in Kosovo. Similar work, of course, could be done in cities in Indonesia. Now, as I said before, visions and plans are good, but plans without investments are can get outdated and can become meaningless, no? Particularly for those that need to benefit from them. So what we have been thinking about at the bank, in the urban disaster risk management and land teams, is how we need to rethink what we do so far. And the idea is we need to start thinking about how the right mix of investments implemented in the right sequence and in the right location can transform cities, deliver shared benefits, contribute to mitigation and adaptation. And the fine print is how to make all this, how to make more with less, how to do this with the least public funding and the most private financing. And the key here is to try to identify these critical pieces of infrastructure that could not only generate the change, mitigate, for example, the risk for natural hazards and also the effects of climate change, and at the same time create jobs, not only on the construction, but also on the regular economic activity. We have explored how can we make better, how can we design the new generation of revitalization of waterfronts, transport and recreation corridors, how can we do water-wise and future-proof places, and how can we even renovate and revitalize all town and downtown areas, not just for beautification, but to help cities do all these things that we were talking about, no? Mitigation, adaptation, and preparation for the next disaster. No? Exposure of natural hazards are still present, and climate effects are just compounding this risk. The economic benefit, the economic dividend of doing this is enormous. In the case of Australia, for example, just the urban renewal in the Green Square was able to do, on top of creating jobs, on top of creating a large movement of economic activity, was able to recycle 320 million liters of water and generate supply the families living in the around areas almost half of the water that they needed. No? There is, of course, a health dividend. There is, of course, an education attainment dividend of doing this. So the question is how to design this investment. But as I said before, the question is also how do we finance this investment. And one key aspect of the messages we have been hearing in the morning is that no one can do it alone. And no one was able to do it alone before. And the situation is even clearer now. And so lots of funding sources need to be combined, from national transfers to loans, maybe conditional loans. The cities that are better equipped could probably be more empowered to use more other financing instruments like land value capturing instruments. And at the same time, cities that are in the process could be empowered with a capacity and resources to improve their own source of revenue. At the same time, it is important that local governments have the means to partner the private sector, to enter into agreement with the private sector, to manage their public assets better. Because the investments are going to be so large, that's going to be key. And I will just conclude with one point. This means a change of paradigm, as I said, from building back better to building better before. But it also, from the side of the authorities and in all over the developing world, there is one thing that will be key. In the example of Sydney that I mentioned, the most important investment, infrastructure investment, you could not see because it was under the water. It was not the buildings, it was not the park, it was not the public space. The most important was the micro-tunneling that made the magic work. The transformation of Bilbao that we also analyzed yesterday, the most important investment was cleaning the water of the river. It was not the Guggenheim Museum. So this is also a change of paradigm. We need to be able to invest in infrastructure that is going to be difficult to inaugurate because it will be hard to organize an opening or a launching. This is also a little bit of a change of paradigm, but it is one of the key elements for the success of investing in resilience. The World Bank is, of course, ready to partner, continue and strengthen the partnership with Indonesia, and of course, all the important stakeholders. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Luis. And there's yes, big hands, please. There's a lot of food for thought, obviously, here. Would you like to take a seat next to me? And I think you raised some very, very important points that we can discuss more in the question and answer session. But what is clear is that plan without financing is not going to go anywhere. And the other thing is that we should not, climate change and growth should actually go hand in hand. It's growth and the reduction of emission, not either or. And our next speaker, I would very much like to welcome on the stage here to join us, coming all the way from Rotterdam, is Mr. Ahmed Abu Taleb, Mayor of Rotterdam, and Mayor Abu Taleb has been Mayor of Rotterdam since 2009, if I'm not mistaken, and Mayor Abu Taleb also received the 2021 World Mayor Prize for his commitment to treating all people as Rotterdammers, regardless of their origins and backgrounds. And apparently, thanks to him, Rotterdam has grown to be an open and progressive city with a strong emphasis on circularity, sustainability and innovations. Mayor Abu Taleb, it looks like we have a lot to learn from you. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. You may be ask yourself a question, how is Ahmed Abu Taleb a Dutch mayor? Correct. I'm born in Morocco, as a matter of fact, and I'm happy to see that the Moroccan ambassador is sitting over there. Thank you. And I migrated to the Netherlands with my parents in 1976. So I'm an immigrant, in fact. And it's thanks to that great nation with that great tolerance idea that a Muslim can be a mayor in a mainly not Muslim country. That says something about the tolerance and acceptance in the country where I live. So I'm a kind of a chip that is made in Morocco and programmed in the West. So that type of combination. So try to use a kind of wisdom, which is in Arabic language a better word for it, which is al-hakama. Try to use the word al-hikmah wal-hakama for al-hakim to do good things in my city and by doing that in my country. I would like to share a couple of thoughts with you. Being now 17 years government official, a couple of years in the national government, vice mayor in Amsterdam, and now 13 years mayor of Rotterdam. First of all, I would like to congratulate the city of Jakarta for the major developments of last 5 years. I'm now for the 5th time in Jakarta, and I see really fascinating progress. So thanks to Governor and your predecessor, the actual president, and your staff in the city. And yesterday evening I was walking in Pasar Baru, just walking. I have the ambition to walk 10,000 steps a day. So when you sit in a conference room like this one, there's no space to walk. So we do that in the evening. I think that the management of this hotel can save a lot of energy if they reduce if they increase the temperature to 25 degrees. Please do, management, listen. The first principle that I would like to share with you was when I was a young official working with the Social Economic Council of the Netherlands, that is the most important government body, advisory body. I had a unique chairman who told me, Ahmed, go shopping in the market, and when you go to the market, you will see that it's a market, but there's always a government official to take care of the market. We call him or her the market master. So the only way for a market to function is that you need a market master. So government must be aware that if you ask the market to come in, that you need a market master who has the philosophy about how a society must function. Without having your own personal requirements, the market no idea what to do. And it's there what I think it starts, having a notion of what a government is. We governments own land, we have regulations, we have the law, and we can do things by organizing our own government systems. Second, the most effective thing is not going to say to a market, this is a piece of land, go do your thing, but it's also a matter of collaboration. Nowadays, in cities with scarce space, we invite developers to build high towers as residential places. But to reduce the movement of citizens from these towers to a school, to a working place, we need social things within the same building. For instance, a high tower with 100 floors, floor 1, 2, 3, 4 as a school. And floor 5 is a doctor, a nursing home, and whatever. So you need a combination of market and public institutions in one thing. That makes things difficult when it comes to financing, indeed. But I disagree with you that you can have a plan without financing, because we say for a good plan, there's always financing. A good plan. And I think that's really important to have that type of combination. And city of Rotterdam has a scarce land. We had to build tall buildings in combination with social functions. If there is a school there, we can eliminate that parents at 7 o'clock in the morning will leave the neighborhood to bring the kids 7 kilometers away to school. No, they go in the same tower to school. They need a doctor, it's there. They need a nursing home, it's there. A combination of functions, that's how we make a city really functioning in a way that is attractive, to reduce also the traffic, which is in major cities a huge thing. Then reducing resiliency, increasing resiliency, a lot of people talk about that in terms of physical aspects, and we in the Port of Rotterdam, we know everything about resiliency. The city is -6 meters below sea level. So building solid dikes and levees is really important. But on the other hand, I believe that increasing social resiliency is more important. And that's another way of thinking about the city. A lot of rulers in cities think that we have to build roads first, cables, bridges, buildings to make a city attractive. That's wrong. People first. People first. Mother Nature gave us, as human beings all over the world, the same potential talent. That's fascinating. In the whole world, there is not a smart country compared to the other. We have in all world a fascinating curve with talents separation. The difference is, are we making this talent able to develop? And for that, we need one instrument: investing in people, investing in education. I remember once I think in my first year being mayor, that a councillor in the council said to me, "Mayor, you must bring more police, deploy more police. I'm responsible for policing, more police in a part of the city, in South." I said to him, "Yes, indeed, the crime rates are really worrying, but maybe we should start with bringing more quality to that neighborhood. Better schools, better cultural circumstances, better facilities for sporting." We invested there some 40 million euros in sport facilities, places where kids can play. To renew 35,000 houses, one way or another, 200,000 people are living there and working over there. And to stimulate that these people are going to work in the port. This is what I call social resiliency. It's not buildings, it's not cables and not bridges. That type of resiliency is following. First, people, social aspects, and then the investments in the physical infrastructure. And a small comment on the former speaker, it's really a lie to say that we can do more with less. We cannot do more with less. My mother, a simple human being, told me when she was baking bread, if you want to make more bread, you need more flour. And if you use more flour, you need more water. It's more flour, more water to make more bread. You cannot make more bread with less flour and less water. There is a book that's named How to Lie with Statistics. Read the book. And I was working with the National Office of the Netherlands, Statistics Netherlands. And I can tell you everything about how to lie with statistics. So it's really important to stick with real observations for managers. Don't tell them that you can do more with less. That's not possible. And every mathematician can tell you that it's not possible. So for us as responsible people, the only thing we can do with limited resources is making choices. That's what we have to do. That's truth. We cannot do more if we have limited resources. Then it's either education, also sports, of other things, but you cannot do more things with limited resources. If P multiplies Q is constant, then you have two variables. The P and the Q are the variables, but the C is constant, and the constant is our budget. And the guy over there is knowing everything about the budget of Jakarta. If that budget is constant, you cannot do more. That's the reality. And then, an example. In 2007, we had the problem of the international banking. Big banks in the world were collapsing. So that shows that governments had to jump in to save the banks. I was in the government, we did that overnight. The government took 3 banks and 1 insurance company. We nationalized them. You know that. That means that working with capital of banks and developers is only possible if they make profit. The moment they don't make profits, it's there for the governments to collect the mess. 60 billion euros was needed to take these banks over and the insurance company. And the issue there was in our system that banks are financing the developers, and if the banks are not financing the developers, the housing construction stuck. And we have a lot of problems nowadays still related to that period because we did not construct enough houses those years. We need an additional 80,000 houses the coming years in my city and in my region. So we have understood that if you want to do that better in the future, is that you need to have a combination of governments that want to take risks, not only to say to developers, this is the land, go ahead, but to be also in the position to take risks. And taking risks mean participate also with budgets in construction projects. That's really important to do so. And then to make the city attractive, that's the pictures you see now. We had I don't see them on the screen. We decided recently to create 7 major green projects in the city for a number of reasons. To make the environment attractive for developers to come to build, to make the city attractive in terms of reducing heat stress for resiliency, and in the short term, to organize a bigger participation of our citizens. I will conclude, Madam Chair, saying that making a city is a joint effort. We have in the Netherlands now 30 billion euros waiting, government money, to increase production of CO2, to increase the production of hydrogen, to reduce CO2 emissions, and to regenerate, this is the port of Rotterdam, how the way we make the port green in the future. And there is no government money to do that in the port because the port is generating its own money to do that. We need regulations to do that better. And I put an emphasis on education of countries and youngsters and systems. If you want to fight corruption, it starts with education. Corrupted people are not coming from the moon. They are a result of our society, of our culture, of our civilization. And it's there where the Quran is saying, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, لا يغير الله ما بقوم حتى يغيروا ما بأنفسهم. The status of a society never changes until the society is working to change its own behavior. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Very big hands. Come and join us. And I like what you said about, financing. If the plans are good, there will always be financing. Of course, when we talk about resilience, it's actually putting people's social resilience first before physical resilience. And I think we can learn a lot from you, Mr. Mayor, because you've been mayor for what now, 13 years? 13 years. So this is a kind of sustainability. If you have, doing, for year after year after year, and then sticking to it with the right policies, then I think this is something that we can learn in Indonesia. And our third speaker is from Deputy Governor of Bank of Indonesia, Pak Dodi Budiwaluyo. He will be joining online. So do we have him on Zoom? Is Pak Dodi with us? Hello, Pak Dodi. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
Good morning. It's sad that you're not with us, but I'm sure we are looking forward to your presentation. Pak Dodi, your 10 minutes is, floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to all of you. It is a great honor for me to be here. Even though I'm not able to come in presence, let me take this opportunity to share what the Central Bank Indonesia views on our economy prospect, the challenge, and the potential of investment in the sustainable areas as the theme of today's seminar, Investing in Resilience. I think after the COVID-19 pandemic, the world is facing challenging situation from the economic perspective. Increasingly prominent risk is the risk of the stagflation. On the supply side, the ongoing war has caused the serious disruption on the global supply chains and also the food energy supplies. As a result, I think we experience now a high price of the goods, especially food and energy prices. I think this is the highest over the last decades. And now from the demand side, the huge amount of the liquidity stimulus from the many countries during the pandemic at the end will, of course, hit on the prices. The purpose, of course, to maintain the people's purchasing power. But then I think at the end, how we able to manage the pressure of the prices coming from the liquidity when the economic reopening. The classic problem of the too much liquidity, too much money chasing too few goods. This, I think, pushed the global inflation to the highest level in decades. In response to inflationary pressures, the global central banks in many countries pull emergency brakes by rapidly tightening the policy rate, increasing the interest rate. Markets must repricing quickly, and I think increasing the high volatility on the capital flows, especially in emerging markets. At home, the domestic economy recovery remains intact. The GDP, the growth in Indonesia in the second quarter 2022 reached 5.45%, 5.44%, significantly above the previous projection. Even the realization in the first quarter, 5.01%. Moving forward, I think the solid economic growth is expected to persist. Several early indicators in July, August 2022, and also the latest of the Bank Indonesia surveys continue to point to further improvements in terms of the consumer confidence, the retail sales, and the manufacturing purchasing manager index. The export performance as of July 2022 remain a positive territory despite the global economic slowdown. Bank Indonesia again projected for the growth 2022 will be a bias toward the upper bound of the range 4.5% until 5.3% projection. The headwind to the domestic economy comes from the soaring of the international food and energy prices, which is intensifying the inflationary pressures in our economy. The CPI in July 2022 recorded 4.94%. I think we are waiting the August CPI, which will come soon, probably in the few more minutes from the BPS for the inflation of August. Moving forward, I think pressures on the headline inflation are expected to increase on increased hike of the global energy and food prices, coupled with the supply gaps. Furthermore, the core inflation expectation could potentially increase due to the higher non-subsidies fuel prices and the volatile food inflation, together with intense inflationary pressures on the demand side. Such developments are expected to push the inflation in the year 2022 and the year 2023 beyond the target 3% plus minus 1% corridor. And I think the close policy synergy between the government and the Bank Indonesia to manage inflation is importantly continue needed. Ladies and gentlemen, the short-term challenges that arise and occupy our focus often distract from the longer-term issues we are addressing with the structural reforms. Under current conditions, our commitment to continue the transformation will be tested. The structural reforms include initiatives to create greener and more sustainable economy. Action must be taken swiftly since the climate change and also environmental degradation, if not dealt with, will pose a threat bigger than the pandemic with severe and costly economic and social consequences. In the current condition, with the declining of the public revenues and the constraint in the financial market, I think investing in human capital and new green technologies needed for the transition to a sustainable economy becomes more challenging and also more costly. In this context, financial markets play an important role to ensure financing for sustainable investment, to offer decision-useful information for investors and policymakers, and also to manage and share climate risks. It is therefore of the utmost importance that the Sustainable Finance Agenda address not only the issues of the accessibility and affordability of finance, but also the technology and know-how as well. Global cooperation is essential to tackle these challenges. Considering that the sustainable finance is cross-cutting issue, Indonesia presidency in the G20 led global ambitious action set out in the G20 Sustainable Finance Roadmap. The roadmap sets the building blocks for advancing sustainable finance in support of the goals of the Paris Agreement and the objectives of the 2030 Agenda. It articulates key priorities to help scale up sustainable finance and improve access of the international financing facilities for sustainable development. Sustainable financial instruments, or called as a SFI, have grown rapidly over the past 10-15 years, but financing gap for the climate transition and other sustainability goals remains very large. To this end, the Indonesian presidency will work to ensure that the roadmap address how to make sustainable finance more accessible and affordable for developing countries. The Green Bond and ESG instrument, environmental, social, and governance instrument, are a good start towards sustainable investing, although need to be strengthened in terms of the implementation. Investors want its investment not only generate returns, but also to create a positive impact to the climate. There are three elements of the ESG: environmental, social, and governance. The three of which do not always go hand in hand, at least in the short term. Environmental aspect often conflict with the social aspect. For example, when the transition to a green economy has an impact on the incomes of the lower middle class. Next example, the phenomenon of the greenwashing creates a contradiction between instruments that are labeled with the green and conflict with the governance aspect because they are not used for activities that have an additional positive impact on the green economy. Despite facing many challenges, we remain optimistic that sustainable investing needs to be strengthened both in terms of the frameworks and also in terms of the implementation. The successful transition to a more sustainable global economy depends on the sustainable funding. For this reason, every possible way to strengthen sustainable investment need to be carried out quickly and together, including through various discussions that at last may lead to consensus at the global level. ESG strategies are still in their early stages and development compared to the traditional equities and corporate bonds. Nevertheless, ESG is essential for institutional investors, not only for climate-related policy and financial reasons, but also for their reputation and leadership in pushing sustainability agenda going forward. I will take the last time for giving some outlining what Bank Indonesia strategies to increase the sustainable financial instrument SFI. First, the importance of developing instruments of the green finance and investment to foster sustainable and inclusive economic growth. The second, the importance of developing an ecosystem of sustainable finance instruments. This could be realized with the support of all relevant parties through incentive and disincentive policies while building resilient infrastructure, including other critical elements such as green taxonomy, verification process, green certification bodies, and green rating agencies. In conjunction with the government, Bank Indonesia will develop a green ecosystem in Indonesia through policies and support for green money market instruments, green and inclusive financing for the MSMEs, as well as a sustainable Syariah economic and finance. The third, capacity building programs and continuous technical assistance are essentially needed to increase the understanding and expertise of all parties. The successful of the SFE developments will be determined by strong collaboration and mutual support among all stakeholders. From investment perspective, Bank Indonesia also supports the Asian Green Bond Fund from the Bank International Settlement, BIS, at Basel, and invest in financial assets that meet ESG criteria. From a macroprudential perspective, Bank Indonesia also supports the green transformation through lower green down payments for electric vehicles, and also special loan to value for the green dwellings. To improve the financial literacy, Ministry of Finance, Bank Indonesia, Indonesia FSA, OJK, and LPS are collaborating to organize the leading Indonesian financial literacy. We call it as a LIKE. The event was held online, consisting of a series of talk shows discussing the role of financial markets and retail investors in sustainable development, as well as various investment issues. The events will take place in 3 series. Public is given understanding of the role of retail investors, including young people, in supporting sustainable development, retail investment products in state securities, and capital markets products with the theme of the environmental, social, and governance and Sharia. And the third aspect of the customer protection and how manage finance wisely and sustainably. LIKE is a form of a cooperation between authorities to encourage financial literacy, increase the retail investor base, and strengthen the development of the Indonesian financial sectors. I may stop here, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak Dodi, and I understand that you can't stay with us for the question and answer session. So once again, thank you very much for your presentation, and we would like to say goodbye to you and wish you a very good day. But I think the message we got from Pak Dodi's presentation is that sustainable financing is absolutely key, especially since energy transition is very, very costly. And also the important thing is to focus on human capital development as well as technology. Last but not least, I would like to invite the host of our program this morning, the Governor of Jakarta, Pak Anies Baswedan. Would you like to come and join us on the stage? Pak Anies, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mbak Desi. Thank you for the great leadership in this session. Our fellow speakers and ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning to everyone. And I'm speaking again, but this time I will be talking more about what Jakarta have done and what we try to do in the futures and how we can perhaps collaborate together. And as I might also re-emphasize what Mayor Ahmad said earlier. I mean, as you know, we can learn a lot from him. I mean, he is the longest serving mayor in the history of Rotterdam. So no one beats him. 3 terms. So we can learn a lot. And as we often said here, what makes city a city is the people. even though the buildings were here, the structure were here, if the people have left the place, it's no longer called a city, and it's the people. And I think that's the core. And if I may re-emphasize on the importance of that. And that's also same paradigm that we are adopting when it comes to Jakarta. When it comes to our city, am I able to use this device? Okay, good. So the pictures we're showing here is just an example of what is in our mind when we are transforming Jakarta. Why we're doing all of that? Look, this is just a brief fact about our city. We contributed 17% of the national economy. We have 3.5 million cars, 16 million motorcycles, and then the area is only 600 kilometers square. So it's 30 by 20 kilometers. And the last one, we produce waste at the daily rates of at the average around 7,500. 7,300, 7,800, that's the average 7,500 tons of waste every day. And for millions people are commuting every day. So you can imagine, this is the place in which people come, work in the economy, make money, go back home, enjoy life, and then have their experience in between. So we sort of look back and think, how do we divide or how do we classify where people are in our city? So we come up to the approach that there is first space that is at home, second space is at work or at school, and third space is where we can get together. The question is, where is that third space? Malls. People don't go to parks. Why? Because the park was not developed. The park was garden, not park. In Bahasa Indonesia, both are the same, taman. In English, it's park and garden. In major city, we have parks, but not garden. So we converted garden into parks by, get rid of all these signs. Dilarang menginjak rumput. Do not step on the grass. Do not step on the grass. And it converted. Why? So the people get together. So the third space is our objective when we create infrastructure. Why? So that people can experience the city. We left our home, taking our private cars, our private vehicles, reaching the office. We get to the parking lot, and the parking lot is so spacious and so cheap, so that everyone is taking the cars, and then there's no interactions except with your coworkers. In between, there's nothing. So major infrastructures that was built, not for the sake of infrastructures, but it's for the sake of transforming our society to be a city in which the citizens were interacting. The citizens were feeling that this is a place where we live together. Not just we live in the same city called Jakarta, but we're interacting one another. So look at these pictures. This used to be road completely for vehicles, and it is converted into pedestrian. And when it comes to pedestrian, immediately you address one challenge that Jakarta has been having for many years. Jakarta is a segregated city without we realizing it. There are those who live in the kampung, and there are those who live in the complex. And it shows different socioeconomic status. Wherever we go, we can see how people were being treated. Where they park, it reflects their status in their socioeconomic rank. If you can do valet, then you're doing good. It's because valet is expensive, but it's easy. And then, or you can park. If you ride a car, you park near the place. If you ride motorcycles, the parking is a bit far away. One day I was riding a motorcycle and I entered a hotel, And when it comes to the lobby, the security stopped the motorcycles and said, no, motorcycles cannot come through the lobby. So, okay, if the motorcycle, so I take off my helmet and then walk. Oh, sorry, Pak Anies. What's the difference? It doesn't matter whether this is Anies or someone else. It's just simply because you're saying you cannot, the motorcycles, we're not allowed to go. We have been living in this type of segregation for so many years that we didn't think this as a problem. We overlook this and we take it as granted that Jakarta is Jakarta, we enjoy life. No, this is a problem. And therefore, when we're talking about unity, then we're talking about something abstract in the conceptual framework. We are translating that unity into action, into concrete work. By how? By building infrastructures that promote the feeling of unity. Why that's matter for business? I'll tell you later why that matters for business. So we built this street. Here, anyone can walk, and it doesn't say there is a lane for the rich, there is a lane for the poor. It doesn't matter. You can walk together, you can blend together, you can enjoy the old city together. Same thing with sidewalk in the Sudirman Street. For decades, if you are in the Sudirman Street, you must work in that place. And you must be part of the business community. If you're not part of the business community and the elite business community, you're not coming to Sudirman Street. That's a very privileged street. Build sidewalks, 8 meters wide, being protested, and we go forward. We ignore the protest at the beginning. The 8 meters wide sidewalks. Now, anyone can come there, anyone can walk there, and I guarantee there are many families who come there, and I've seen that. I've met many, not coming from Jakarta, from the surrounding of Jakarta, taking their kids, and they told us stories about, wow, Pa, we're enjoying this place now, good. And I imagine many of them, perhaps, of these parents telling their kids, you study well, you work hard, so that one day you will be able to work in this one of the building in this place. That's dream. It's become something concrete. You know, I can be part of this. So the idea of building this infrastructure is not simply about the infrastructure itself. There is sociological purpose in mind. Public transport. Why do we build public transport? Why do we need to reach everywhere in the city? I'll show you some of the achievement, but it's not about the statistics what matters. 82% of the citizens who are within walking distance to public transport. It is not about the 82% near public transport and the 91% of citizens now within walking distance to the public parks. It is not about making sure that they can go anywhere. That is not the only or the main objective. The main objective is this, to create the feeling of equality. When you are riding public transport, you will stand in the same line, you will sit on the same chair, you will be in the same cars. It doesn't matter who you are in the society. You can be the CEO, you can be jobless individuals, and you can stand on the same place. You can enjoy the same facility. It's called equal treatment. And that's what makes us feeling together. Because the city is providing infrastructures for everyone. If you go to the airport, most of us here will be able to use the business lounge. We're fortunate to have that privilege. But if you use public transport, there is no business lounge. There is no special treatment. Be it the president, be it the governor, be it the minister, be it the CEO, you will have equal. Same thing when you go to parks. It is a measure, it is an instrument to create the feeling of unity, the feeling of equality, and furthermore, the feeling of justice. Now, why that is important for business and why that is important for sustainability of the city. What we'd like to see is stability that is based on concrete works, not pseudo-stability. Indonesia used to have stability during the New Order, when the regime, at that time, the New Order regime was in power, we had stability, but it was called pseudo-stability. We are together because we were forced to be together. We work together because we were forced. Someone is waiting in the corner with military power, with authority, and if you're fighting, we have a stick that will discipline you. And everyone is following order. What we'd like is the real stability. Real stability comes from the feeling of equality, from the feeling of justice. And with that, we will have a city that the people were working hand in hand, supporting one another, interacting one another, and it can create a more livable city. So the infrastructures project that we're doing is to make that feeling presence. Look, we're talking about expanding clean water. The clean water is being expanded. Why that is the case? So that everyone here in the city will be feeling that government is taking care of their basic needs. We have minimum investment on basic services for so many decades. So it's not 1 or 2 year problem. No, this is a decades of problem. And if we don't address this issue of water, and next year will be historic for us, because beginning next year, we will take over water management back to our city. For the past 25 years, water has been managed by private sectors. And the contract was for 25 years. We're stuck. Next year, we'll take over. There's a municipalization of water management. And we are optimistic. With this, we will be able to reach all residencies. Today, we have only 62% of our populations having access to pipe water. This is opportunity too. So, what I'm presenting here is not simply about menu for the purpose of having a better hard infrastructure city. No, what we're presenting here is we have objective that is much higher. It's about the people, it's about the feeling of justice, it's about the feeling of unity, and all the infrastructures that is lining up is moving toward that. And that's where we're presenting. So when it comes to all of this, including the 33 towers that was built within 5 years. In the past 5 years, we built 33 towers. I have to say this is a great work for our housing department. This is impressive work. Please raise, Pa. This is the leadership today. And it is impressive. I mean, you built 33 towers. And again, for who? For those who are unable to live and own the homes through financing, through market mechanisms. And this is something that if I may repeat, I said earlier during the U20 session, we relied on the market to provide housing for those that have purchasing power. But large portion of our society didn't have purchasing power. What do we do with that? We cannot use market mechanism on that. For that, for those who are making around minimum wage, which is 4 million up to 15 million monthly salary, they will have access to a project called Zero Down Payment Project. They can own the house. However, they don't have to pay the down payment, which in most cases, this family able to pay the monthly installment, but unable to accumulate saving to have 20% of down payment. So we took over the down payment. They pay the monthly salary, the monthly installment. It's not that we are taking over the 20%, we're spreading that 20% into longer period of installment by initial fund from government to be given to the bank. So the bank is still receiving the down payment, but who paid it? Us. We are the one that gives it. This is government intervention in the market mechanism. So we are still relying on market mechanisms, however we step in and intervene. But there are those who are unable to even pay monthly installment. Non-formal, informal sectors in our city was tremendous. And to go to a bank for financing, you have to have proof of salaries, and you have to have all these documents that anyone in the informal and non-formal sectors will never be able to provide those documents. And for these groups, we're providing these towers, these 30 towers is for that group. So when market mechanism cannot work, government step in and provided that. So our approach here is that we have state-owned enterprise within our government that is able to work together. Some were making profits, some were never making profit. However, for the partners, they will be making profits. So it's us that have to bear the cost. I'll give you one example. The Taman Ismail, I'll give you one example here. The Taman Ismail Marzuki. This is the cultural center, and then for education, artworks and all of that. This will be managed by our corporations owned by the city of Jakarta. However, they are not subject of institutions that to make profit. They will partners with other. However, we will put investment into this entity to operate in a commercial way, but does not have to come back with us with profit, but come back with us with benefit. Because cultural activity is something that we do not push them to come back to us with profit. However, it is managed with commercial terms and way of doing things. If it is done through bureaucracy, the rules and regulations that they have to follow are too many. If it is a corporations, they can be more flexible, faster making actions. So many of these opportunities that we are offering and also partnering through our state-owned enterprises were something that government committed ourselves to invest through our companies. Talking about Jakarta International Stadium, for example, we invested there a lot, and it cost 4.3 trillion rupiah of investment. But we're ready to partners on the management, on the expansions of that. The initial investment is coming from us. If we invite the private sector to invest on a stadium like this, minimum are coming. Otherwise, we would have seen the stadium long ago, if it is lucrative. But malls, immediately private sector can step in. We do not need to step in, because malls were lucrative anyway. But stadium like this, we provided the initial investment, then we're inviting more to come. So with that in mind, I'd like to ensure to you that most of our projects, most of our infrastructure development and opportunity is not only aimed about building the hard infrastructures, but making sure it is more livable city. And why we mentions about reduction of greenhouse gas emission, we talk about net zeroing by 2050, because we want to make this city a global city. We saw some surveys. What makes a city called global cities? If global talents come to the city. Bapak Ambassador are here because they are being assigned from our friendly government to be here. What we would like to see is people where global talents were making a rational choice that I am coming to Jakarta because this is a land of opportunity. If we list down some of the issues. One, the environment is good, the air is clean. Two, health services were at the international standard. Education at the international standards. So we have listed, and if we are moving into that direction, Jakarta will become a global city. We are embarking on that, and we institutionalize that into our plan. So we do hope, again, that with some of this approach and some of this development, we will be seeing that Jakarta in the future is not only the Jakarta that you can see with your own eyes, the beautiful infrastructures, the beautiful buildings, the beautiful sidewalks, but also the city where the peoples were happy. The people were feeling the sense of unity, feeling of sense of togetherness, and sense that government is providing all necessary basic services. And if that is present, then we can be sure that even when the capital city is not in Jakarta, Jakarta will continue to be a vibrant center for business activity, cultural activity, and hub of Indonesia. So these are sort of our visions, and we're grateful, alhamdulillah, it's been translated into our medium-term development plan and our special plan. By the way, then this is also something that for the business community to look at, not directly investing together with us, but coming into Jakarta. On the special planning, we have rearranged the floor ratio regulations. We have, in many cases, it has been doubled or tripled. So in the same area, let's say, if today one area, the floor ratio is 3, ratio number 3, it's called a 3, the ratio is 3, many are now has been increased up to 7. So it means you will be able to build higher tower in many areas in Jakarta. Next week we'll talk about that. Let me end here my comment, my remarks, and we hope this will give you some sense that we are not only talking about hard infrastructures, but we are talking about the soft infrastructures, the community, the society, that will facilitate all of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Governor Anies. Would you like to come and join us here on the stage? And I have to say, and I have to admit that I have lived in Jakarta for quite a long time now, and it used to be Jakarta is, it was not a pleasant city to live in. I mean, we have to admit, and if you're middle class, your day would be like going from an air-conditioned house into an air-conditioned car to an air-conditioned office, and then you spend your time in the mall. No fresh air whatsoever. But now, because we have sidewalks and we have green spaces, I spend quite a lot of time now jogging, in the parks, and Jakartans do that now. We jog and then we use the bike lanes, and then more and more people are using the MRT. So yes, there are changes, and even though Jakarta will no longer be the capital of Indonesia, I'm sure Jakarta will thrive in the future. Now we go to a question and answer session. I would like to just pick up on the very important points here about, this is all about investment and it's all about financing. And Luis, from the World Bank, what kind, obviously investing needs investors, and investors would need to be energized. They need to be excited to put their money in these projects. What would you say, particularly looking at Jakarta and the examples that you've seen at the governor's presentation, what would be the most attractive, the definition of good project for investors to put their money in, and the kind of, whether it's incentives or the climate or the returns and so on? Because we do need a lot when it comes to energy transition and also green financing.
Thank you very much for this important question. It is, as a Mayor Rotterdam just mentioned in his remarks, it's they have to be financed. They have to be good plans. No? So I think that is a key part of it, and also. Thank you for the question, because it allows me to clarify one small point, is that the principle of doing more with limited resources, it's related to the need to mobilize private capital. That doesn't mean you should not invest more. It's like actually Indonesia has to invest more because compared to the region, it's investing only a fraction of what the other cities in East Asia Pacific invest as a percentage of the GDP. No? As a result, the increase in GDP per capita is still also a fraction of what happens in other countries in East Asia Pacific. So investments in city must, of course, increase. Now, the question is how to mobilize more private capital for every single unit of government budget. And that's where the issue of finding the right projects come, no? And the issue, Indonesia is particularly important situation because as there is a vision of a new capital, then the question is, what's going to be the role of Jakarta? And there are a couple of elements, and what is clear is that it will need to reinvent itself, its role, and that's a great opportunity. No? There are opportunities in different places, in central areas. We discussed about Kota Tua, for example, in our event. How can Kota Tua become a hub of creativity and innovation, of startup thriving companies going there, but at the same time embracing the nature related to the water? What about the waterfront, for example? And there are this type of investment that could be attractive for the private sector, that could be green, that could be resilient, and that could mobilize this private capital. I think this is still a question that is remain unanswered, and I'm of course the wrong person to even try to answer that question because the answer is here in Jakarta. But I think along those lines, projects that maximize investments in the right location with right amount of private capital mobilization, I think that would be part of the answer.
And the World Bank's role itself, how do you see the World Bank? Obviously,
So the World Bank, as I mentioned, provides support in different parts, from starting to thinking, bringing global expertise to think about how these questions can be answered. Also on trying to identify the best global practices of different technologies that could be applied. And of course, at some point in time, when the government is interested, there could be a possibility of financing as well.
And recently, Indonesia, we have a country platform for energy transition mechanism. Is this something that can be applied regionally, not just nationally? Is this something like, for example, on the question of using blended finance and then having some kind of a platform or mechanism to attract foreign investment, particularly for not just energy transition, but for renewable and green growth? Yeah. Is this something that is suitable for Jakarta?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I mentioned in my remarks, all these issues related to climate change and climate finance are now becoming part of the strategic dialogue at the national level. But of course, it drills down to cities, no?
Okay, Mr. Mayor, sustainable financing, but also sustainable leadership, and I think one of the success of Rotterdam, obviously, is because of your continued leadership. But when you look at Jakarta, I mean, Jakarta it's not just Jakarta with its 12 million people, but it's the greater Jakarta area of 35 million people. We have like a laundry list of problems that we're only now, one by one trying to address. And it's very much a social focused type of problems. And with housings, with pollution, but also with the fact that Jakarta is sinking, and we know that the Netherlands very good with dealing with water. And you mentioned that Rotterdam is how many inches actually below the sea level? Well, what kind of things can you share with us that we can use the example of Rotterdam in order to address these
what I'd like to share with you with my experience is that when it comes to a lot of issues in society concerning private capital, there is a business case for that. It's exactly a matter of doing the math. You hardly need public money in it. Let me give you the example of the energy transition. speak a lot about that. We can now in the North Sea produce electricity privately organized for 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. The traditional way of generating electricity costs about 5 up to 6 cents per kilowatt hour. So it's profitable. It's a business case. Put in the windmills over there, bring in the cables on land. It's a profitable business. It takes time, and it takes government regulation to do that, to allow that. So the Port of Rotterdam built a complete island to facilitate that process, to bring the windmills there, to bring them back, and so on. Why we are facilitating that? Go back in humanity. I like history sometimes. I'm not a historian, I'm an engineer. But humanity started in the Stone Age. We did everything from stone. The agriculture was the instruments of stone, and we made fire from stone and everything. And then it took a whole long time to move to a new stage in civilization. Then we used steam. And there was a British guy who put a lot of steam in a pipeline, and then when he releases steam or he uses pressure on the steam, he created this movement. Yeah. And it turns to be the train, the locomotive. Fascinating. The Dutch, a Dutch engineer who thought that what about if I can reverse that movement into a vertical movement, doing the same? That becomes the pump, because they needed the pump to dry the polders, a lot of water. Yep. So civilization dictated that we dropped stones, and that we had a lot of stones. We still have a lot of stones to move to another era in civilization. And then a while later, there were people like volts and ampere and watts. They come up with electricity, with lights, and magnetism, artificial magnetism. And both of that made it possible to generate electricity the way we do that. And we use traditional ways to do that, like coal, wood, and all this stuff. And now says the civilization, we don't want it anymore. And that's not dictated by leadership. It's an autonomous movement in society. We need to do that in a resilient manner. It's there where we are. And combined with the Internet of Things, we are living in the 4th industrial revolution. So we have to be aware of that. And cities and nations must facilitate that process, and there is a business case to do that. The issue with leaders in the world is complex. A lot of leaders would like to have a lack of something they leave in history behind. President Mitterrand of France, he built a huge library as a symbol of his presidency. What about not, Mr. Governor, leaving a heritage of a building when you leave the office as governor, but leaving the heritage of brilliant people, smart people, that can be able to really transform the whole society. But the issue, Madam Chair, is if you start today in investing of kids of 4 years, it takes 16 years to see the result of it. And the World Bank and a lot of banks in the world are not tending to invest in that type of investments because they think it's not rewarding. I wrote together with my party in 2006 an election program, and we wanted to invest in at least 4 days a week childcare for mothers and fathers, of course. And the Planning Bureau, who is doing the math for the political parties in the Netherlands, said this policy line will not lead to economic growth. We skip it from our mathematics. Stupid, of course, really stupid, in a nation where we need to have more women to work in hospitals, in education, in other spaces. The notion of banks and planning bureaus need to change, that investing in social matters is an economical activity and is not a social cost. A nation that neglects 50% of its citizens, women, if you neglect 50% of your citizens, you will not develop. And I think it's really an important notion to know that we need in our daily production the 50% women's production sector. I was yesterday in one of the malls here just to check the living standards. Mr. Governor, I'm investigating your city. And it's fascinating to see the role of women in those business. Most of them are women doing this type of work. And I think we have also to encourage the banks and the local banks, but the international banks also to rethink the way they think about investing in social infrastructure and to redefine that as economic activity of growth instead of seeing that as a social cost that is going down the drain.
Okay. And I also think that I think it's very important, the social resiliency, but people do need to be incentivized to actually have that the shift in the mindset. For example, like here in Indonesia, I mean, it's probably easier to just throw away our waste than actually going, bothering about recycling and also, reusing and so on. But what is life like now in Rotterdam, for example? Is it easier to live sort of following everything's environmentally correct than it is to...
That is really the leading principle.
Because, for example, it's people here now, they want cars. They'd rather, be in cars, for example, than riding bikes. And this is what Governor Anies is trying to do, incentivize people to actually, travel by bike because it's cheaper, it's safer, but then you have to create the infrastructure. How is it for Rotterdam?
Well, first
How
of
have
all,
you actually...
I'm going to visit the landfill of Jakarta this afternoon.
Yes, it's horrendous, it's horrible.
We don't see that as trash. We see that as gold. 7,000 tons a day.
Yes.
We see that as gold. We have one of the cars of the city that is collecting trash. It's written on it, trash is gold. If you separate that in an appropriate manner, you may reuse stuff. And what you cannot reuse, we burn that in the incineration system. We make electricity out of it. We make steam out of it. And we use the residues to make highways. We don't have landfills. It's forbidden in the Netherlands. So if you use that in the appropriate manner, that finally will be gold. And there will be some stage in our thinking that delivering garbage to the city will not mean that you have to pay taxes to do that, but probably the city will pay you to deliver your garbage to the city. It's really raw material that you can use it for other things. And it's a fight with cars. In downtown Rotterdam, we eliminated 6,000 parking lots, just moved out of the public space. We create more space for pedestrians and bicycles, and more than that, we have to convince businesses that the ones that buy more products are the ones walking and cycling and not the ones with cars. You create a city lounge with cafes and terraces where people can come and relax, go to the theater, go to the music and whatever. And I think it's really important to have that awareness. But it's a fight with the car lobby to bring the space back to normal proportions. In Rotterdam, 51% of the land, 51%, is for the car. It's a tremendous. So in the long term, there is no solution than to reduce the space for the car.
And are people using electric vehicles now more and more?
Yes, my wife is living in Rotterdam and working in The Hague. That's 30 kilometers, and she's using an electric bicycle to go every morning to The Hague and go back. It's a fascinating way of keeping yourself healthy, and for that we built wider bicycle lanes. I wonder the bicycle lanes here, but they are small still. It's about 1 meter. The space is scarce here. Well, the only way to do that is to take space out of the cars. Just to show to the car you have less space. And then the pricing mechanism. If you park your car downtown Rotterdam, it's €4.50 per hour. You go to the city garage, it's €2. So disappear from the public space and put the cars somewhere underneath the ground is profitable. And we combine that, Mr. Governor, what's really a good idea for you, with water storage. So we have places where we store water, millions of liters of water during the rain period. And above that, we have the cars in the garage, and the space above that is empty for public. So we use piece of land 3 times, water storage, cars in the garages, and the public space above is really for pedestrians. So we have to redesign the way we think about cars and the space that we give for that. But cities are to deliver basic services. And it's really important to stick to the basic elements that we are there to satisfy the daily needs of our citizens and to make that the private capital is going to work for social circumstances and not vice versa.
Yeah, I think you raised an important point here, but you do need to incentivize people to actually, you need to create the system where it's easier, more convenient, cheaper if, for example, you recycle your waste as opposed to paying a municipal truck to actually pick up your waste. So it's...
Mike, I find it really attractive that the city of Madrid has a public infrastructure system saying any citizen don't pay more than €1 a day for using public infrastructure. Yeah. So you travel through the city of Madrid the entire day for €1. It's an idea. We have in Rotterdam free public transport for kids below 12. So you may move in the city, whatever you want, for free if you are 12 or less, and if you are 65 or plus for seniors. So it's another philosophy about how to encourage using public goods.
Yeah, Governor Anies, obviously what we've seen is this is exactly the way that we want Jakarta to be. You want people to go out there and enjoy the city and be out in the fresh air. You make the sidewalks, you create the pavement. You want people to enjoy being together and enjoying the public utilities of the city. You create the parks. And but then you do need to change the infrastructure and change the system, and then that way you change the behavior. Now, going back to investing and attracting good projects, because these are things that require investment. These are things that require planning with financing. What are your thoughts? What are the good projects, good plans that we can ask our investors to start, collaborating with us on?
Sure, but allow me to continue a little bit what Mayor Ahmed Abu Talib said earlier with regard to investment and development in area that is long-term. And many of us in these political cycles were often find it minimum incentive because the result cannot be presented in the next campaign cycle. Okay, and that is the problem embedded to our political system. So reform in schools and education often were being left behind. But that's the key for the future of the city. It's about the workforce, it's about the human capital. And if that is not being addressed for a city like Jakarta, we will be a place where everyone coming into the city and enjoying the opportunity, but the people who were here in the city were slowly leaving our city, living away from our city, because they were not able to compete, because the education,
marginalized, yes.
Exactly, and that has been happening, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And we have been seeing the native Jakartans were moving away from the city. Why? Because they lose the competitions with laborers coming in from outside. So, Mbak Desi, we did a reform in 2019 on school enrollment scheme. And if I may say, this is one of the decisions that we made that we had to be facing strong protests from the middle class of Jakarta. Very strong. We rarely experience that. Why? Because we rearranged that to create more opportunity for everyone, for equal opportunity. Not only for those from the bottom, but making our enrollment scheme, recruitment system, becoming equal opportunity for everyone. You remember that period?
Absolutely.
And
parents freaked out because they can't put their
Yes.
kids in their favorite schools, for example.
Exactly, because now the favorite schools are no longer admitting students from only the privileged families, but it is now enrolling from all segments of society. And if you go to schools today, those schools, you will be seeing children whose parents were only educated at elementary education. In the past, 90% were highly educated. Now, it's equally distributed. But we will not be seeing the result next 5 years. We will only be seeing the result 10, 15 years. So what I'm saying is this. Excuse me? Probably later.
Yeah, probably later.
So those schools now admitting students from all levels of society. And I told our team, this is where education serves as social economic escalator. You step into that escalator, you're moving up. But if the escalator were only given to the privileged families, then we'll not be able to see our city able to sort of provide the inner city labor supply. So let me put that as a note, so that when you see Jakarta in the long run, I can also guarantee that you will be able to see supply of human capital from within our city, not only from outside the city. So that's one. And then two, with regards to some of the project, we have the leadership of our state-owned enterprises here that is able to sort of go on the detail, and all the pictures were, or the opportunities were listed out there. But the message is this: whenever it comes to public works, we are committed to provide the necessary initial investment so that any investment that we are inviting partners to join, it will be something that is also good for business. Give you one illustration. We expand our public transport. Let me tell you that the public transport in our city, all the buses were not owned by Transjakarta. Pak Dirut Transjakarta, can you stand up? This is the CEO of Transjakarta. He manages all the buses, all the system, but he doesn't own the bus. Who are the owners of the bus? The operators. The operators were providing the service. We are off-taker. So we sort of invest our money through Transjakarta to create, in a quote, businesses for the bus operators. They are the one that double the fleet. They are the one who sort of enjoy, in a quote, the development and the expansions of our transportation system. And then we know that public transport is expensive. And if we use this old model in which passengers were paying directly to the operators, then it will be too expensive for anyone to ride a bus in Jakarta. It'll be too expensive. It's no longer rational. So to ride a bus, you have to be altruistic. You have to be, someone with idealism, for the green economy and all of that. But we then put our government money into Transjakarta to pay the gap between the expenses and the revenue, so that for these operators, it is still a feasible business model. However, we know for sure that in the long run, as we have more ridership, we will be attracting more people, more businesses to come and join this model, and Transjakarta will one day be getting more non-fare box revenue than the fare box revenues. But it will take time, and during that period, our commitment to step in and making sure the market is working. Because if we don't allow the market to work, then public transport in Jakarta may not be sustainable. We need to allow that system. So, Mbak Desi, our approach for all this project is that there is a commitment from the government side to provide the initial money. And fortunately, it was mentioned earlier about the size of our budget. Jakarta Government has quite a sizable budget. At the national level, if we are included among other institutions, including the ministry, we are ranked the 5th largest institutions in terms of budget.
Okay.
So with that capacity, we would like to allocate the money for major infrastructures that help our purpose.
Yeah, that's great. As long as every penny actually goes there, it doesn't get sort of lost in the way. Mayor,
Well, there is
something.
really a wrong perception among a lot of my colleagues in the world concerning what is the government doing, what is the market doing. You cannot leave things to the market if you don't have competition. Then the market will not function. So public transport in hands of the markets, knowing there is no competition, is not going to function. So we are in Rotterdam happy to own the company that is doing the public transport. It's our own company for decades. And I created in 2010, together with my colleague, the Mayor of The Hague, the Metropolitan Authority. That is The Hague, Rotterdam, and 23 cities together. I went to the parliament and asked him to vote a bill to give me that authority to be the highest authority for public transport in this whole region. And I am. I am the chair of that region, and I take care of the public transport. So the tariffs are in our hands. The salaries of our drivers are in our hands. We own the machines, and we're also responsible for the infrastructure where the buses and the metro and the trams are driving. So it's misperception that a market can operate in a country or in a city if there is only one of it. Then you give a monopoly the space, then that market company will dictate whatever it wants. So get out of that system. Don't give monopolies the right to operate in a city if there is no competition.
Yeah.
And I think it's a really important notion, a very basic one, and I think even the World Bank can endorse that. You cannot create monopolies if there is not a competition in the public space.
Yeah, the competition is good, and especially it will bring prices down. But just, by the way, how many more years? I mean, how long can you get to the re-elected again, Mayor? In
my entire life.
Because this is the key. This is actually a key to success of
in the
getting
Netherlands,
your...
the term of a mayor is 6 years, and there are no term limits.
No, there are no term limits.
No term limits. As long as the citizens trust you, I'm elected by the city council. The city council is doing the work. So if I finish my term, it will be 18 years.
My goodness.
And I have no idea what I will finish that term. I simply don't know. But as long as I'm healthy and I still am original and have the ideas, I like to do this type of work. I will continue.
Well, this is the kind of problems we have here because, you know, here in Indonesia, everything is exactly short term. Actually, you're finishing very soon, Governor, and I'm worried, you know, what will happen to all these exciting
Governor
plans.
Anies will not finish. Read my lips.
No, I mean, there has to be sustainability, obviously, in all these things. We can't suddenly, start building things and then, you're gone, and then the next governor decides to do something else.
That's phenomenon across the globe when it comes to democracy. but Mayor Ahmad visit to Jakarta is the 5th time. So the 6th visit, he will be coming as Prime Minister of Netherlands. So we'll welcome him as the Prime Minister later on. But and also, let me address on that continuity. That's why it is important on the issue of institutionalizations. And our approach, my approach at least, when I step into office, we have leadership that has been appointed by the previous governor. And my approach has not been that I'm going to get rid of anyone appointed by the previous governor. Nope, not at all. Even the secretary, sekda itu apa sekda itu?
The regional
secretary, who is the COO, okay? he passed away because of COVID. Then there was a replacement, but I did not replace, and including leadership of the state-owned enterprises. I've been seeing state-owned enterprises in other countries, why their growth are so good, because their leadership were being kept as long as they're performing. So I said three things. You know, why we replace someone. One is you're not delivering in terms of its technocracy. If you're not delivering, you're out. Two, if you're not loyal to the mission. Not loyal to the person, but if you're loyal to the mission, because we need to be in line. Everyone is working in the same direction. Number two, loyal. If you're not loyal to the mission, then you're out. Okay? Number three is your term is coming. That's it. Because then there's no way we can do. You know, but that's the three. So when I call someone, we thank you for your service, but your service ends, then I'll tell him one of these three reasons. One, because you're not delivering, or two, because you're not loyal to this mission, and number three, because your term ends. And I can guarantee many of the leadership of the state-owned enterprises who are here have been around before I step into office. So the idea of, you know, a continuity has to be in the mind of anyone elected into office. Because you cannot just step in and you want to make a change. Yes, and change is needed, but continuity is needed. So that's why I always said, you know, the mission is 2C, continuity and change.
Yes.
If the problem's more than the thing that need to continue, then we're talking about change first and then continuity. But otherwise, continuity first.
But you know, seeing is believing in Indonesia. They've been talking about this MRT, Mayor Ahmed, is like, you know, I've been in the media, TV industry for so long, for over 3 decades, and it's only recently that we've got this mass rapid transit, you know, which is absolutely amazing for a country, for a capital city the size of Jakarta. But how are we doing for time, by the way? Because I'm not wearing my Fitbit. I'm not wearing my 10,000 steps a day.
It's still not midnight. So.
Do we have? Can we get some questions from the audience? And if you could just put your raise your hands up.
To the right of them, yeah.
Tolong ada ini. If could you please stand up just very quickly? Identify yourself. Who would you like to answer the question? If you could make it very brief and to the point, that would be great. Silakan berdiri.
My name is Owo, and I still remember, I'm from British Chambers of Commerce, part of the board management. I still remember that our first conference in Masamis, decades ago, when we start our foundations with Pak Teguh Stendrik and Romo Magnis Suseno, and you're still in Indonesia Mengajar at that time. In relation to that, decades ago you mentioned that your mission and say Indonesia Mengajar, the teachers who you replace in the small islands, in the small cities, that you have perspective that probably the next futures there will be a CEO from the Indonesia Mengajar who have the grassroots mindset and also global worldwide mindset, and then what you have been done. I mean, what we've done during the governor compared to the what you've done is in the Minister of Educations, and compared to the Indonesia Mengajars, it's in relations to for the next decades, including for the missions of the investment also, as the CEO local.
Okay, about what, right?
Owo.
Owo, from the British Chamber. The question is, you know, you had your program Indonesia Mengajar, and then you said, you know, one day those that you educated in the Indonesia Mengajar, and then during your term as a Minister of Education, how do you see them? Are they, you know, thriving from? This is a question for the governor.
Should we take more questions and then we'll answer, or just one by one? So for time concern.
Okay. Well, we can take more questions as long as we remember what the questions are. Do we have? Let's take just one more question. So it's anybody else?
Okay. Let me address Owo. Right. Good to see you again. It's been years, but let me address. He was talking about a project that we started
It's quite long. It's quite
12
a while
years
ago.
ago.
Yes.
It's still happening, and we have around 1,400 graduates, I believe by now, alumni of that project. So we recruited best university students, recruit them, and then deploy them to the remote areas of Indonesia where there is no electricity, there is no phone signals, minimum infrastructures, and teach there for a year. And then after that, they come back to Jakarta, or to Indonesia, or come back to wherever they are, and then work for private sector. So we have been seeing many of them in the private sectors were moving up the ladder. Because when they were recruited under age of 25, so by now they're around 35 to 40s, maximum 40s, because this is only 12 years old project.
And the program is still running, right?
The program is still running, and we're optimistic that we will be able to see leaders in the business community, in the private sectors, who have grassroots understanding about our city, about our nation. So again, that's the kind long term. That's why when I'm here in managing our city, I often told our friends, let's not worry too much about what is written today, but let's concern more about what historian will be writing in the future, okay? Because they will be writing with complete data set in the long run. And many of the decisions we're making today cannot be felt the result in the next day or next year. It'll be years to come. But let's not get it wrong, that we don't only focus on things that we can present for the next election, but let's do something for the next generations. And that's what we're trying to do here. That is what I said, consistency of thinking that I'm trying to hold. Thank you.
That's why education is important. I have been reminded that actually time is up, but I would like our panelists to have a last remarks. Maybe we start with you first, Luis. You, the urban development specialist.
Thank you
last
very much.
Thoughts, and what would you like to see? And are we on the right track, Jakarta?
I think absolutely. I think the focus on people is key. I think the message from the mayor and also the governor that housing is probably, as it's the most important thing for families, is probably the most important piece of infrastructure in cities. So more investment needs to go there. And of course, education is a key issue that is at the top of our agenda as well. The World Bank is the largest financier of education in the developing world, and together with other pieces of investments in health, education, transport, and cities, that's how we are trying to support governments on their challenges. So thank you for this opportunity and for this wonderful discussion.
Great, Mayor.
Well, my final message with an example is another wonderful book written by a monument of a gentleman in the Netherlands. We called him always the under king of the country. The book was written under the title, Think Big and Act Small. What we need in leadership is not, it's not a criticism about the World Bank, not at all. What we need is not a leadership that has a vision and a plan and budget. That's what we think. A vision, a plan, and budget. I moved out of that thanks to my experience. What we need is visionary people.
Visionary.
Visionary. That's not the same as having a vision. A vision is probably to cover your government period of 4 years. But being visionary is having a thought about how a country will develop the coming 30 years, the dot on the horizon. I know two natural leaders who had not been elected in the world, who had a vision for the short term and were visionary for the long term. Nelson Mandela, come out of prison, had no title of being president, but he was the leader. Never elected. It was not the outcome of the polls. He came out of the prison and was leader of the nation and had a dot on the horizon. And what wanted his citizens? They wanted one thing, the black people in South Africa, and we all know that, they wanted revenge. And he said, that's not going to happen. That's not the way I think about the far future of South Africa. He was not fulfilling the wish of his compatriots. And he was a leader, a true leader. And another one was Gandhi. And Gandhi had also a long-term vision, how to keep India together. And the only thing to do that is to keep Muslims and Hindus together. There was a long-term vision. And the small step to do that was appointing, after the British occupancy, appointing a Muslim as a prime minister. That was against the will of the Hindus and has been assassinated. He became a victim of being a visionary man. So what we need really is more leadership in terms of where are we going and what are the small steps that we have to take today and tomorrow, because our people need steps, visible steps of today and tomorrow. And I would like to try to reshuffle the way as local leaders and other leaders think about how we structure our thinking to reach the international, the big goals that we would like to find. And that's not the same as laying down a bicycle lane tomorrow. But we need it. Think big, act small.
Yeah, visionary leaders. What we're lacking, unfortunately, these days. You mentioned two people who are no longer with us. Wish we can.
After Gandhi, in my belief, there was one long time later, and happy enough, it was a woman, Merkel.
Yeah.
And then after Merkel, nobody.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why the world is where we find ourselves at the moment. Governor Anies, your last words, and what would you actually like to see come out of our discussion?
Think big, start small, and with this, act now. So the action needs to be done today. So today with this session, we're only opening up. I would like to invite you to participate in the transformations of our city. We have outlined that this transformation is not simply about hard infrastructure, but it is about transforming the society. We're trying to make our city more livable with various different instruments. And our approach has been a collaborative approach. What does it mean? We serve as collaborator, and we invited the citizen to be co-creator. So you come up with new ideas, tell us, and we're happy to engage, to explore, and to adopt. So it is not government-driven agenda only. So if you come with ideas, you know, Mr. Governors, Mr. Head of Department, we have ideas of doing A, B, C, D, we're happy to adopt. So that's sort of the approach. So the menu is not only coming from us. Yeah. This is our city. Our vision is to make it a global city, but also livable, and we invite everyone to be part of this journey, not only being a passive passengers in this journey, but we're inviting you to be active, engaging participants in this process. Okay. And with that, I'd like to again invite all of you to participate, and thank you for joining this important session with all of us. Terima kasih.
Yes, big hands. So what are you all waiting for? Act now. Once again, thank you very much to our distinguished panelists, Luis, Mayor Ahmed, and also Governor Anies. And I think, you know, we're well past the time allocated to us, but I'm sure you all agree that we had a very interesting, fruitful discussion. It's certainly food for thought as you go now and have your lunch. Now, I would like to return this event to our MC. Amelia, are you still there?
Yes, thank you very much, Badisi. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's give them a big round of applause. How incredible, very exciting discussion. And next, to all of our speakers and moderator, we'd like to have a group photo session together. So for that, kami persilakan kepada teman-teman media sekalian untuk mengabadikan momen yang sangat spesial ini. That is our first plenary discussion with our great speakers and our wonderful moderator, Mbak Desi Anwar. Yes, to our speakers and to our moderator, let us have a group photo session together, and we'd like to thank our media members and friends for capturing this wonderful moment. Thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, may all future endeavors continue to be as exciting as our discussion here today. And once again, let us give a big round of applause to our speakers. Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, for the great discussion. And thank you once again to our wonderful moderator, Ms. Desi Anwar, for excellently moderating this very exciting speakers. And thank you to our speakers for sharing your knowledge and your input with all of us. And I hope that all of us here have gained incredible insights from our speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, allow me to thank our speakers, His Excellency Mr. Anies Rashid Baswedan, His Excellency Mr. Luhut Binsar Panjaitan, His Excellency Mr. Dodi Budi Waluyo, His Excellency Mr. Ahmad Abu Talib, and His Excellency Mr. Luis Miguel Triveno Chanjan. And ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you will stay with us until the end of our events, as the day is still young and we still have more discussions. And together with the speakers, we're going to pick their brains. Once again, we'd like to thank our dear speakers. And ladies and gentlemen, as we remind you to stay with us until the end of the event, allow me to deliver a little bit of information regarding the agendas that we will have later today. By 1:30 until 3 o'clock, we'll have a one-on-one meeting between investors and our officials. And later, starting at 1:30 after lunch, we'll have more thematic discussions and sessions together. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to tell you a little bit about our next session, and that is how Jakarta has been actively promoting green investments and initiatives for a long time now. And ladies and gentlemen, as our speakers have pointed out, is that chances lead to opportunities, and that is what Jakarta Investment Forum is all about. And ladies and gentlemen, Jakarta has been actively promoting green investment initiatives. And without further ado, allow me to direct your attention onto the screen. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have just been instructed that we're going to do the signing ceremony now. For that, as we have the signing ceremony now, we'd like to invite all of our organizers to set. Okay. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for our next agenda, we'd like to have everyone to please be seated. Thank you very much for a signing ceremony that we'll conduct right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to ask you to please be seated. Thank you very much. Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami persilakan untuk duduk di tempat yang telah disediakan karena selanjutnya akan ada signing ceremony. Terima kasih. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here is one of the highlights of our forum. That is the proof of proposal letter from MRT Jakarta phase signer from PT MRT Jakarta. For that, please allow me to invite to the stage Mr. Farhad H. Mahfud, the Director for Business and Development of PT MRT Jakarta. Let us invite Mr. Farhad H. Mahfud on stage. Along with Mr. Farhad, please allow me to invite to the stage from Korea Overseas Infrastructure and Urban Development Corporation, or KIND. Please allow me to invite to the stage Mr. Lee Sung-hwan, the Chief Representative of KIND Indonesia Office. Mr. Cho Sung-hee, the Chief Representative of KNR Indonesia Office, or Korea National Railway. Mr. J.K. Hong, the Chief Representative of Samsung C&T Indonesia Office, or Samsung C&T. And our witness, please welcome Mr. Muhammad Aprindi, the President Director of PT MRT Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, a brief introduction regarding the project. So the proof of proposal letter emphasizes previously signed memorandum of understanding dated the 31st of May 2022. So everyone, we'd like to welcome you to please conduct the signing ceremony. Gentlemen, please. Ladies and gentlemen, as our officials sign the papers, this Memorandum of Understanding is regarding the cooperation exploration in the potential development of Phase 4 MRT Jakarta, connecting Fatmawati to Kampung Rambutan, marked by the completion of feasibility study, potential development of TOD area, potential consulting service business, and potential for businesses between MRT Jakarta and the consortium. Thank you so much to our officials. And ladies and gentlemen, next we'd like to have a group photo session together. Kami persilahkan kepada teman-teman media untuk mengabadikan momen yang sangat luar biasa ini. Our first project to be signed, the MRT Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you, Ibu. You may now return to your seats. Thank you very much. Thank you. And distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, for our second or next one, it's from Waste Management and Processing Facility by PT Jakarta Propertindo with our signer, Mr. Widi Amanasto, the President Director of PT Jakarta Propertindo. Along the representatives from Sitcom, please allow me to invite to the stage from the Greater Paris Metropolitan Waste Management, Ms. Caroline Shaw, the Head of Institution Relations of Sitcom. And as our witness, let me invite Mr. Nicola J.A. Buko, the Fellow of Global Solutions Initiative and the President of the Grand Paris Alliance for Metropolitan Development. Ms. Caroline Shaw and Mr. Widi, please. Ladies and gentlemen, so the purpose of this letter is to articulate the areas in which JAKPRO and Sitcom can cooperate in investments, finance, and new technologies in the waste management sector. The collaboration will be the promotion of a multilateral developments and environmental agendas. In particular, a planned review of SDG 11 in 2023, as well as the continuation of the collaboration between cities in the world. We're so very excited for this great project. And next, let us have a group photo session together. And ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you very much, Mr. Widi. We'd like to invite you to go back to your seats. Thank you very much, sir. And for Mr. Nicola and Ms. Caroline, we'd like to ask you to please remain on stage. And Bapak Widi, terima kasih. Thank you very much. And next, ladies and gentlemen, on the cooperation of wastewater management from Perumda Paljaya, please allow me to welcome on stage Mr. Aris Supriyanto, the President Director of Perumda Paljaya. Let us welcome Mr. Aris Supriyanto, the President Director of Perumda Paljaya. Terima kasih banyak, Bapak. And next, with Ms. Caroline Shaw, the representative of SIA, would sign the paper witnessed by Mr. Nicola J.A. Buko, the Fellow of Global Solutions Initiative and the President of the Grand Paris Alliance for Metropolitan Development. Everyone, we welcome you to sign. Terima kasih. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this letter is to articulate the areas in which SIAP and Perumda Paljaya can cooperate in the cooperation and investments in the field of wastewater management sector. Both parties will collaborate for making arrangements on specific items of exchange and cooperation. Let's take a group photo session together. Thank you very much, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, one last time, let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Terima kasih. ladies and gentlemen, we invite everyone to please enjoy the great lunch. And ladies and gentlemen, in this great opportunity, please also allow me to introduce to you and share with you the new Jakarta Spatial Plan or Rencana Detail Tata Ruang that will be launched next week on September the 6th, 2022. This new spatial plan will accommodate more green development initiatives as well as capture more opportunities in the green investment efforts and plans here in the capital city, Jakarta. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope that this new policy will capture more collaborations with all counterparts here today. And as we invite everyone to please enjoy lunch, we'd also like to remind you to please fill out the feedback form by scanning the QR code that will present on the screen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the QR code. We'd like to invite you to please give us your feedback form by filling it out online. And that is a survey of the Jakarta Investment Forum activity implementation. And ladies and gentlemen, as the day is still young, we still have more to come. We'd like to invite you to please have lunch with us and mingle with the great company that is around you at the foyer area. Kepada Bapak Ibu sekalian, kami persilakan Anda untuk menikmati makan siang yang telah disediakan di area foyer atau di area pre-function area, dikarenakan ballroom akan clear area. Kami mengucapkan terima kasih sebesar-besarnya kepada Bapak Ibu sekalian atas partisipasi dan kehadirannya. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you back here at 1:30 sharp. Terima kasih. Thank you very much.
Improving quality of public services is a monumental aspect of administrative and bureaucratic reforms, for it will contribute to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. The Jakarta Investment and One-Stop Integrated Service Department, or better known as PTSP Jakarta, is a newly established government organization that started in 2015. PTSP Jakarta provides integrated solutions for managing investment, licensing and non-licensing in the capital city of Jakarta. Our service aims to focus on three main priorities to achieve zero delay, zero complaint, and 100% service excellence. Thus, we provide the citizens with an innovative multi-channel public service approach. To make PTSP's presence more accessible, our services are spread in 316 points. A 12-story building dedicated as a Jakarta Public Service Mall was built in 2017 to expand the function of one-stop integrated service. The mall integrates 19 public service units from private sector and government agencies of both Jakarta and central government into one place, becoming a comprehensive one-stop place providing 330 services. Prioritizing the use of information system and communication to accelerate our services. Managing customer inquiries with quick response, and providing reliable and suitable for working and public facilities. committed in giving exceptional service, we hold onto values to provide solutions through empathy, decisive, innovative, and competent manners.
Solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Setia, solusi empati tegas inovasi Anda. Pelayanan publik.
Jakarta Capital City Government will stay committed to remain trustful and wholeheartedly dedicate our efforts to fulfill the basic needs and civil rights to every citizen through providing quality public services.
Bagi warga ibu kota, kerja tanpa lelah, memberikan yang terbaik dengan inovasi tiada henti, multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani. Pelayanan nyata bagi warga ini.
We work with full dedication in order to realize our commitment as the licensing solution for Jakarta citizens.
Dengan inovasi tiada henti, multi channel public service delivery 1500164 call center dan ajib siap melayani.
Come and grow with Jakarta, smart city, smart opportunities.